Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mack Worley III.
Hello, MacPack. It's great to be back with you for another edition of our program. Of course, this is On the Move with Mack Worley. I am your host, Mack Worley III. This episode is episode 107 of our program. It is titled How to Beat Tyranny and Small Minds. I'm really looking forward to today's show. Just so you know, I've been scrambling here because of the snow. I went out, I got stuck in the snow. I don't know if you guys are in a part of the country that's getting dumped on like I am, but we have probably about, I don't know, I think it's about 8 inches of snow or something out there, maybe 6, something like that. I know I had to scrape a lot off my car. That's all I know, is that there was a lot on the car. And I have a little car, economy car, so getting around in the snow is like playing a game of Grand Theft Auto. I'm just sliding all around out there. It was pretty intense, but I made it. I'm back, safe and sound. I thought I was going to have to push the episode back for about a half hour, but I managed to get everything done in time. So anyway, if you guys are new to the show, you don't know what this is about, first of all, I just want to thank you so much for tuning in today to give us an opportunity to bend your ear. And also, I just want to give you a heads up. We broadcast every Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we talk about all sorts of things. You know, guns, government, philosophy. I'm a libertarian in philosophy, so I kind of talk about that, how I look at the issues. And most importantly of all is I love interacting with you guys. That's what I love. It's what I do this for, is to talk with you guys and get your opinion. So if you would like to join today's conversation, if you have anything that's on your mind, you can interact with us live on the air here. I'll communicate with you guys instantaneously thanks to modern technology. You can either call us 360-450-5625, or you can get us on Facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow or on Twitter @OnTheMoveShow. So I would certainly appreciate it if you would join today's conversation. Also, you can always listen to our show at our hub, OnTheMoveShow.com. That's where we got the majority of our stuff there. Or if you want to go directly to Spreaker, that's Spreaker.com/OnTheMoveShow. That is SPREAKER.com/OnTheMoveShow. And if you would follow us on there, I would greatly appreciate it. And also, you can, like I said, you can check that out on Facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow, Twitter.com/OnTheMoveShow. And if you're interested in the stuff that you hear on the show today, I would really appreciate it if you go over to YouTube.com/OnTheMoveShow. We got a bunch of original content over there, in addition to the fact that the podcast automatically goes over to YouTube when we're done. So that's another way that you can listen to the show as well. We try to give you guys a lot of different avenues. Also, we're on iTunes. If you guys want to check us out on there, leave us a review. I would certainly appreciate that. So without further ado, let's get into the meat of today's show. Today's featured topics will be I want to talk about Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia. He died, and he died at age 79. So I want to just mention something that I think is important with this, obviously, as well as recognize his passing. The next feature topic, I want to talk about how to defeat tyranny and small minds. I'm going to specifically be narrowing this field down to violent versus non-violent resistance. And I really want to get into this, dive it pretty deep. And I think it's going to be interesting because I have some clips here that you guys are going to appreciate from deep within the archives of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X. And I want to give you guys a portrayal of how it's different. And then I also want to talk about kind of leading it into today, what we're seeing now. I have a lot of friends who are talking about revolution, fighting tyranny, things along those lines. And I just want to pump the brakes a little bit on revolution and explain why I think that we need to be looking at how Martin Luther King did things rather than how Malcolm X did things, because history has proven time and time again that nonviolent resistance has been effective. So we're going to get into all of this. Then I also want to, next feature topic here, Iraq, Libya, Syria, and Iran. It's all about the petrodollar. I'm going to explain why, what you need to look out for. Then next feature topic, ISIS has chemical weapons. What's up with this? This is news. So we're going to talk about that. I'll give you guys my take on this situation and what I foresee coming down the pike here. Additionally, this is going to get into a kind of a subtopic topic here, but Turkey is threatening to send refugees into the EU, and essentially they're trying to get them to the NATO to get involved into Syria, and if they don't create some kind of safe zone, a no-fly zone, this is the words you need to hear, no-fly zone, then they're going to release all of these refugees into Europe, and they're essentially threatening them with this. In addition to that, inside Turkey, Saudi Arabia is amassing troops, and they're on the verge of invading Syria. Very, very scary stuff. 150,000 troops. We're going to get into that. I also want to play a clip here. We got John Kerry thanking Iran, and then right on the heels of that, all right, he's thanking Iran for their humanitarian treatment of our soldiers, and then immediately following that, now Iran is celebrating their capturing of U.S. troops with reenactments. They have people dressed up in U.S. military uniforms, and they're parading them through the streets, reenacting the event, mocking us. And then let's get into the economic side. We got two featured topics on the economic side. I want to talk about negative interest rates. And first of all, they're already happening. They're happening around the world. I believe they're coming here. And then I want to talk about why even bother having money in the bank if interest rates are going to be negative. We'll talk about that. I don't know why you'd still have money in the bank. Get it out. And then the last featured topic of the day, if we got more time, I got a lot more stuff we can go into. But I want to talk about why I believe Donald Trump will destroy the economy. Not based on my preference of Donald Trump, but my belief that his policies will create a trade war. And why that would be bad. Why would a trade war be extremely bad for us, and how quickly could that spin out of control, and how easily? We're going to get into all of this, and again, if you have anything that you would like to bring up, anything on your mind at all, please feel free to give us a call. The number to the show is 360-450-5625. Before we cut to a commercial break, I just want to bring your attention to something that is important to me here. I believe in charity. I really have a main issue with the mechanisms of redistribution of wealth that steal your wealth to give it to someone else. You guys probably know how I feel about that. If you've listened to the show, you've heard me enough talking about that. The reason why I have issues with that is because I believe that redistribution of wealth is theft. But I adamantly believe in charity, and I don't think that we should hand over the reins of charity to the government, because that's us basically washing our hands of being charitable and giving that job over to the government. And it's far too important for the government, who is terrible at everything it does, to take over this. So this is why I want to just point out a page that came to my attention, and I normally don't hit you guys up for money, but this isn't my cause here, and I want to get it out there, especially because I understand the events that are surrounding this. So somebody on Facebook sent me a link to a GoFundMe page of theirs, and essentially the guy lost his job. He worked in the oil industry, and as you guys are aware, Saudi Arabia is in the process of colluding with the U.S. government to destroy the Russian economy by lowering the prices of oil, which, by the way, dropped to $27 a barrel just the other day. Again, a barrel of oil is $28 just for the barrel. Just for the barrel. So, anyway, very important to know. But it's devastating the economy. There's so many people here in America because Saudi Arabia is simultaneously destroying American shale in the process. Lots of people are out of work now that were in these industries. And I have one specific group, one specific family that is basically just trying to keep their head above water. And I just want to give you guys the link here. I posted it on my Facebook, facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow. The GoFundMe is titled "Please Keep Our Family Together," and the link address for the GoFundMe is GoFundMe.com/X26NVXP8. Yeah, that's really catchy, right? So GoFundMe.com/X26NVXP8. So essentially, the guy, he worked in the oil industry, and he's lost his job, and he's really struggling now. He's basically he now has to camp out in tents. So I just wanted to bring this to you guys' attention. If you want to do something to help, I'm sure they would appreciate it. And anyway, that's all I'll say on it. But we're going to cut to a commercial break, gang. When we come come back, we're going to dive right into the first feature topic of talking about Antonin Scalia. So you guys don't want to miss this. Right after that, we're going to go into our headlining topic of how to beat tyranny. So we'll be right back.
Oath Keepers is a nonpartisan association of current active duty military, reserve, guard, veterans, peace officers, and firefighters who will fulfill the oath we swore, with the support of like-minded citizens who take an oath to stand with us, to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So help us God. Join us at oathkeepers.org.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/OnTheMoveShow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services, from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mack Worley III.
All right, gang. So Antonin Scalia, he died. He was age 79. He was the Supreme Court Justice. He served on the court for, I think, about 30 years. And he was one of the literal interpretationists, one of the, I believe he referred to it as textualists or originalists. He believed in basically looking at the meaning of the document, what the words actually mean, not what we wish it would mean, what we think it ought to mean, but what the Constitution actually means, and not worrying about the outcome, whether or not it's favorable or not. It's just, this is what his job as a Supreme Court justice was. That's what he believed, and that's what he advocated for. And he was well known for writing very, very long dissents. Particularly, one of note was his Obamacare dissent, which I want to get into in one moment. But he was known for writing his dissents not to the other justices, not to the court itself, but for posterity, to history. And I'm very familiar with his dissents. I've read quite a few of them, and I actually like him on a lot of issues. I think he was a good judge. Now, it's very concerning, because right now we are down to 8 Supreme Court justices, and as you know, most of the decisions that we've had recently, the court has been so divided. It's been 5-4. So there's going to be a lot of situations here where we're not going to be able to come to a conclusion. And there is some talk now with the Senate. They're saying that they're not going to appoint whoever President Obama nominates. They're going to wait until he's out of office. And, I think that's a great thing, first and foremost. I think that's good, because the last thing we need is another, leftist judge, a leftist activist judge sitting on the court replacing a conservative. But I want to just mention here how important this election is. The fact that basically the Supreme Court, they are the end all when it comes to what is constitutional in this country. The fact that these 9 people, they're elected for life, and we can't get them off of the bench short of them dying or committing some kind of criminal act that is worthy of impeachment. that there's not a whole lot we can do, and it's so important that in this next election we have a conservative who's going to appoint conservative justices. And again, I'm a libertarian. I am a fiscal conservative, and I'm also a constitutional conservative. I believe in conserving the Constitution. Now, as far as social conservatism, I'm not socially conservative. I'm a social liberal, or a classical liberal in the classical sense of it. But I think most of these issues that we take to the Supreme Court, and where it's expanded upon, that again, where there's nothing in the Constitution that says that this is the purview of the federal government, all of that was left to the state governments and the people, respectively. So I think it's very concerning when we see a trend where we're getting more and more of these activist, leftist judges on the court, and we are in real danger if we do not get a conservative that will elect real good justices. We're going to be in some trouble. And I just want to point out, I think that Ted Cruz would be the best person for that job. Some of you may disagree with me. Some of you, I've had some conversation with some of you guys that are really for Donald Trump. I want you to look at Donald Trump's record on talking about Obama's Supreme Court appointees, some of his other appointees. That's something that you really need to take a look at. I don't think there was any Supreme Court appointees, but I think he had some other executive branch appointees, and Donald Trump was pretty happy about these people, and apparently they're pretty leftist. I haven't dove too deep into this, but this is what I've heard from other people. Now I don't know if that's accurate. You do your own research on that. All I know is that I'm being told that Donald Trump has a bad record when it comes to supporting these guys. I'm going to have to do some more research on it, admittedly, but I know where Ted Cruz stands. I've seen him on that. And also, I have issues with Donald Trump just in general on record. Again, I personally, I don't care about persona of people. I'm not voting for them based upon their persona. I'm not voting for them because I think they're a strong man, or because I like their smile. They got great hair, or they look good in a suit. It's not why I'm voting for whoever I vote for. I'm looking for the person that is most ideologically consistent with me. And although I have a lot of disagreements with Ted Cruz, because Ted Cruz is a conservative and I'm a libertarian, and things along those lines. So, like, for example, he wants to build a wall. So does Donald Trump. But I'm not for a wall. Although I think this is a tertiary issue. I think it's an important issue that I would fight Ted Cruz on. Once he starts going down that route, I would say, hey, there's other things we can do. Let's go after the root causes of why people are coming into the country, like the fact that we have a welfare state, for one, and they want to live off the state, or they want a better life, and that welfare state seems to help them get that better life that they want. In addition to that, they have the ability to get cheap jobs under the table. Yeah, they're not making as much as Americans, which sucks for them, but it's more than what they were making in Mexico, and that's good for them. And it also, because they're working underneath the table, they're not getting paid as much as Americans. We're not able to underbid them because we got things like minimum wage. So if we got rid of the welfare state, we got rid of minimum wage, we could compete. They wouldn't have the draw, the incentive of being here. And then in addition to that, if we ended the war on drugs, you want to talk about securing the border, you end the war on drugs, the cartel networks just get destroyed, because there's no more demand for them to bring it in illegally. If you want to talk about ending the violence in Mexico, Obama wants to blame that on us having guns. That was Operation Fast and Furious. It was all an attempt by the Obama administration to send guns to Mexico and say, look at all these American guns. These are our problem. This is our fault. The violence in Mexico is our fault. Well, it is our fault, but not because of our guns, but because of the war on drugs. There's such a demand that the cartels have done what happened during Prohibition, where the mafia was running all this alcohol and getting so powerful that they rivaled the government. That's what's going on. We have to end the failed war on drugs. If you want to really deal with the illegal immigration, you end the welfare state, you end minimum wage, and you end the war on drugs. That's it. And you know what? You just massively shrunk the government in the process. It's a win-win. I think if we could get those done, and I know people would say, hey, Mac, there's no way we're ever going to get those things done. This is the problem, I think, on our side, is that we don't think long game. We're not thinking long game. We're thinking, this presidency, that's it. The left, they think 100 years. 100 years down the road. That's how they got these social programs established in the first place. And we have to give alternatives. We have to, first of all, explain how these programs don't work, why they failed. Things like Social Security. The government literally stole the Social Security depositors' money. They stole it. And now they're paying the depositors with the money that they're stealing from other people, who those people who are paying Social Security money now, in my generation, will never see Social Security because it's going to be insolvent. So, again, the answers to these things are small government answers, like limited government answers, private sector answers, free market answers. That's how you solve things. You don't solve a big government problem with another big government answer, because the big government answers always end up becoming big government problems. That's how it always ends up. So back to Antonin Scalia here. I want to go into his dissent with the Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. Again, not really affordable, nor does it care, but I digress. Anyway, so this is according to the Washington Post. That I thought this would be good considering he passed, just to kind of remember him here. Scalia, he suggested that we start calling the Affordable Care Act SCOTUS Care rather than Obamacare. He wrote that the court's 2 decisions on the act would surely be remembered through the years and will be cited by litigants endlessly to the confusion of honest jurisprudence. Scalia criticized the court's interpretation, which he said means nullifying the term by the state, not just once, but again and again. He called the decision interpretive jiggery pokery, a defense of the indefensible and pure applesauce. He wrote about the somersaults of statutory interpretation the court performed, and said that the words no longer have meaning if an exchange that is not established by a state is established by the state. So, again, we lost a good one. And these elections do matter. I think that we need to be prepared to really dig in on our principles and be unflinching on them. Stop compromising with the leftists, because they are uncompromising. The only compromises that they've made is they haven't taken what little rights we have left. But they will. It's just a matter of time. We have to play the long game as well. We have to dig in and fight the good fight. So this actually leads me to the featured topic, the headlining topic of today's show. And it's how to beat tyranny in small minds. So this is all based upon the battle for the mind. All of this is you're not going to win anything until you actually win the battle of the mind, until you convince people to come to your side. And how do you do that? How do you convince people to come to your side? Well, you have to put your argument in front of them steadfastly and consistently. And you have to explain to them the lack of logic in their reasoning if they are a leftist, for example. So I want to show you what I mean by small minds. Okay, I could not help it. I saw on Twitter a Bernie Sanders supporter. It's at Woman for Sanders. Just putting her out there on Twitter, and she says, "Get out of the way of those that fight for what we should already have: Medicare for all, free college, etc." And she posted a meme of a bunch of ants moving a stick across a little gap, making a bridge, and it says, "The person who says it cannot be done should not interrupt the person doing it." So this is the mindset of the leftists. They think that we should fight for what we should already have, which is Medicare for all and free college. Again, when you're saying free, there is no such thing as free. This is the first point that we need to rebuttal. There is no such thing as free. What you are saying is that we should already have other people pay for things for us. And where are you entitled to have someone else pay for you? Is that somewhere in the Constitution that you have a right to other people's things anywhere? Does that say that anywhere in the Constitution? No, it doesn't. It says no. Is that anywhere in natural law? No. There's nowhere in natural law that claims that you have some kind of right over someone else's property. No. So this is the first false argument here, is that these are things we should already have, and they're free. There's no such thing as free. And the answer to when you ask a leftist, who's going to pay for this stuff, they say the government. And what they really mean is every one of the taxpayers who is paying taxes. And again, you don't have a right to other people's property. That's called theft. So I couldn't help engaging in this conversation. So again, I replied to her and I said, perhaps it shouldn't be done because redistribution of wealth is theft. And this is the small minds part that I'm talking about here, gang. No offense to this person, but they're stupid. And I say that, in love, in a loving spirit, not to be mean, but just to state a fact, because you don't understand simple things, simple words. All right. So I say perhaps it shouldn't be done because redistribution of wealth is theft, and they say not paying workers a living wage, the bailout, corporate subsidies, these are not theft from people? ? All right. And this is hilarious. All right. So you did not understand. You obviously did not get it. So I replied again. I say minimum wage, bailouts, subsidies are forms of redistribution of wealth, which again is theft. And then this person says, I agree. Agreed. And avoiding taxes is too. No. In fact, taxes is theft. It's the mechanism for redistribution of wealth. So at no point are you entitled to your neighbor's property. At no point. And in fact, paying taxes is not stealing from you. It's paying the government. When you pay taxes, I'm not putting money in your pocket. I'm putting money in the government's pocket. And let's be real, they waste that money. As I said, I'm for charity. I'm absolutely for charity and goodwill. I just think it should be left to individuals. That's a very important responsibility we should not hand over to the government because they are terrible at it. Terrible. It should be left to the churches, to the individuals, to the free market. That's where it should be. It's too important of a responsibility to relinquish to a government. Again, if we're talking about morality and what could be more moral than charitable giving, why would you give it over to the most immoral force on earth? Governments. Forced charity is not charity at all. That just needs to be pointed out. Forced charity, not charity at all. So, again, small minds. All right, you can't wrap your mind around it. You just can't figure it out. That this whole concept of the definition of redistribution of wealth is in the name of it. You're redistributing wealth. And I said it's theft. She says she agrees, but she's for punishing people who avoid taxes apparently because she's calling that theft. Look, as far as in the Constitution, we're talking about where in the Constitution does it say you're entitled to your neighbor's property. The Constitution does give Congress the right to collect taxes, but the General Welfare Clause, all right, it does not mean that everyone should generally be on welfare, all right? It means that the things that they do, the money that they collect, the laws that they pass, it should all generally benefit everyone. Like, for example, if I build a hospital in the community using taxpayer money, you may be upset because they redistributed your wealth to do that. However, you have the same option, the same ability to go to that hospital as anyone else. So therefore, you are generally better off. just because it's there, even if you don't use it, just like a road, just like a school, all of these things I would disagree with the government doing, but there is constitutional authority for them to do. But I digress. When we come back, we're going to get into a conversation here specifically referring to the nonviolent protests, nonviolent struggles versus violent struggles. And I want to do some comparisons here between Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X. You guys aren't going to want to miss this. This is I'm really excited. I got some clips from them. And anyway, we'll be right back after this break. Don't go anywhere.
I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, pledging my life, my fortune, and my sacred honor. So help me God. Join us at oathkeepers.org.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/OnTheMoveShow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mack Worley III.
Hello, gang. We're back. If you just joined today's episode here, today's episode is titled How to Beat Tyranny and Small Minds. So I want to get right into our featured topic here, the main featured topic. I want to talk specifically here about nonviolent resistance or nonviolent struggle versus violent struggle. And this is essentially the difference between Martin Luther King's philosophy and the Black Panthers or Malcolm X's philosophy. All right. So when you're faced with tyranny, when the government is oppressing you, when the government is being used as a tool, as we see in our country now, every day, this is not just an African American problem, as Black Lives Matter would like you to believe. This is an American problem. This is an everyone problem, and everyone around the world, FYI, faces tyranny from their government, where the government violates their natural rights. And what can you do? Are you going to stand up and take a gun and just start shooting at government agents? No, that's not, because maybe you would. I would recommend it. That's my personal opinion. First of all, I'm a pacifist, so I don't believe in hurting other people. That's how I roll. I follow the non-aggression principle. I'm not gonna hurt anyone, and especially if I'm out to make a political point, I wouldn't even hurt anyone in defense of myself to make a political point. If I'm going out, for example, I open carry. So if I'm going out and I've had people say, "Oh, well, you should have shot at those police officers that arrested you," I immediately was like, "What do you think? I would be dead right now. Why would that be a better scenario? I would be dead." So first of all, violence begets more violence. But even if they were trying to kill me, even if I felt like I was, and I did feel like my life was in danger, I'm not going to point my gun at a police officer. I'm not going to point my gun at a government agent unless it's not just me on the line there. Unless I have absolutely no choice, and you've backed me in my family into a corner. I'm protecting someone else. I can't even imagine a scenario where we're at that point. I don't think that we are there. And I think that there is some benefit to having violence inflicted upon you. And now, that may sound weird, by the government. All right? And it's essentially a PR victory. All right? Now, in order to win this PR victory, you have to, you got to make sure that you are above reproach. You have to be completely passive, completely resistant, completely non-violent, excuse me, not resistant, completely non-violent, and it has to be crystal clear. You have, I think honestly, even unarmed, I think if, for example, when I was out open carrying, if I was shot in that process, if they shot me for no reason at all, they just saw me, popped me, shot me dead, I had a gun, and whether or not it was even loaded, whether or not I pointed at anyone, touched it, whether or not anything, if they would have shot me, they would have got off scot-free. Do any of you have any doubts of that? That if I was shot, again, I was peacefully walking around with a firearm and just talking to people about gun rights, if they would have rolled up and instantly killed me, do you think that any of them would be in jail right now? I don't. In fact, just for the sheer fact that none of them have, that to my knowledge, have faced any kind of reprimands or anything like that, I think that they probably would have got a medal pinned on their chest. So I don't think that violence is the answer against violence. And this is essentially the age-old battle, how do you fight hate? Do you fight hate with hate? Or do you... you can. I don't think it's the most effective way. It's going to definitely be the most destructive way. I think the way that you battle hate is with love. This is Dr. Martin Luther King's philosophy. This is Gandhi's philosophy. You fight hate with love. You fight darkness with light. If you fight darkness with darkness, the whole world will be black. I don't think that revolution, another American revolution, will work toward our benefit. Now, I want to get into, on the next show, we're going to get into different revolutions in history and why I believe that the American Revolution is, in fact, the most unique, and why I believe why I believe it happened the way it did. And we're going to be joined by somebody I'm actually very excited to have on the show. He's Jonathan Dunne, or Dunn, I think, D-U-N-N-E. I never know how to pronounce that. But he's part of the Blaze, so I'm really excited to have him on the show. We're going to be talking about this. So let's just go right into it here. I want to get to the other. So let's go to Malcolm X. I want to give him the first take here. He's talking in a debate with Martin Luther King Jr. So he's talking about Martin Luther King's philosophy and why he disagrees with it. Here's a clip.
It has been suggested also that this movement preaches a gospel of violence.
No, the black people in this country have been the victims of violence at the hands of the white man for 400 years. And following the ignorant Negro preachers, we have thought that it was godlike to turn the other cheek to the brute that was brutalizing us. And today, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is showing black people in this country that just as the white man and every other person on this earth has God-given rights, natural rights, civil rights, any kind of rights that you can think of when it comes to defending himself, black people we should have the right to defend ourselves also. And because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad makes black people brave enough, men enough to defend ourselves no matter what the odds are, the white man runs around here with the doctrine that Mr. Muhammad is advocating violence when he's actually telling Negroes to defend themselves against violent people.
I see. Well, Reverend Martin Luther King preaches a doctrine of nonviolent insistence upon the rights of the American Negro. What is your attitude toward this philosophy?
The white man pays Reverend Martin Luther King, subsidizes Reverend Martin Luther King, that Reverend Martin Luther King can continue to teach the Negroes to be defenseless. That's what you mean by nonviolence. Be defenseless. Be defenseless in the face of one of the most cruel beasts that has ever taken the people into captivity. That's this American white man. And they have proved it throughout the country by the police dogs and the police clubs. 100 years ago, they used to put on a white sheet and use a bloodhound against Negroes. Today, they've taken off the white sheet and put on police uniforms. They've traded in the bloodhounds for police dogs, and they're still doing the same thing. And just as Uncle Tom, back during slavery, used to keep the Negroes from resisting the bloodhound or resisting the Ku Klux Klan by teaching them to love their enemy or pray for those who use them despitefully, today, Martin Luther King is just a 20th century or modern Uncle Tom or a religious Uncle Tom who is doing the same thing today to keep Negroes defenseless in the face of attack that Uncle Tom did on the plantation to keep those Negroes defenseless in the face of the attacks of the Klan in that day.
But the goal of Dr. King is full equality and full rights of citizenship for Negroes.
The goal of Dr. Martin Luther King is to give Negroes a chance to sit in a segregated restaurant beside the same white man who had brutalized them for 400 years. The goal of Dr. Martin Luther King is to get Negroes to forgive the people who have brutalized them for 400 years by lulling them to sleep and making them forgetting what those whites had done to them. But the masses of black people in America today don't go for what Martin Luther King is putting down. As you said in one of your articles, it's psychologically insecure or something of that sort. I forget how you put it. But you didn't endorse what Martin Luther King was doing yourself.
I do not reject his goals of full integration and full equality rights for American citizens. Do you reject these goals?
If you don't think that he's walking on the right road, I'm quite sure you don't agree that he'll get to the right place. And if you would classify his method as psychologically unrealistic, I think that if a man's method is psychologically unrealistic, which means the road or the means or the method that he's using, I think as a psychologist, you'd be very doubtful that he would reach the right goal.
There is one correction, Mr. Malcolm, I'd like to make here. In that same piece that you're quoting from, I said that his methods are effective. His philosophy of love, of the oppressor, I thought, was psychologically burdensome.
So, Malcolm X, he says that black people of the time rejected Martin Luther King's philosophies, rejected his teachings. And I think through the prism of history we can see that that's incorrect. And not only is it important, he talks about how Martin Luther King is basically cozying up or was cozying up to the white man. And he felt that, there are some clear battle lines that need to be drawn. The white man is the oppressor, and because of that, they're the enemy. Or Malcolm X is the one saying this. So that, I think, is mistaken. And yeah, there were a lot of white people in the South, and all over for that matter, that were oppressing minorities. But the issue here is not the fact that there are white people that are doing this. The issue here is that there is a mechanism called government which allows the white people to do this. The government was the problem. Now, you hear, and this is the spin that we have today, we've gone from trying to overthrow government oppression in the South, the Jim Crow laws that demanded and mandated that Southern people segregate themselves. All right, we've gone from that to now not being allowed to refuse somebody service for any reason whatsoever, to include their race as an individual. Now, I personally, I don't think that somebody should not be allowed to be a bigot. If you want to be a bigot, if you want to discriminate against somebody, that is your own individual choice. I think it's a bad one. But I want you, if you are a bigot, I want you to be open about it. Because me personally, I want to know who's a bigot and who's not, so I can use my freedom of association and not purchase a product from that business, not associate with that individual, maybe even protest that individual. But I can't do that if I don't know who the bigots are. If the bigots are actually outlawed from using their own freedom of association, if they're outlawed against using their own freedom of speech or expression, then I can't use mine to protest them and talk about the ideas openly and let other people decide what is the right side to fall on. So, I disagree with Malcolm X in that his answer is that this MLK philosophy of love is essentially leaving people defenseless. I think that nonviolent resistance, nonviolent struggle is extremely powerful. It's a weapon. It may not be a weapon in the sense that you can kill somebody with it. In fact, it may be a weapon that will get you killed in the process, but it is a weapon nonetheless that has, in many instances, not just Martin Luther King, not just Gandhi, but throughout history. In fact, I have a book right here. Hold on one sec. I got a book, and it's called Waging Nonviolent Struggle. It's written by Gene Sharp. Now, this is not an easy read. I'm going to tell you this. I'm in the process of this right now. I'm a couple hundred pages in, and it's pretty interesting. I have to say there's historical case after historical case where people have used nonviolent struggle as a weapon and have been much more successful than violent struggle at reaching the ends. If your end is not to overthrow and replace the government, if your end is to force the government into a corner to where it relinquishes power, nonviolent struggle is the way to go. Now, if you want to use violent struggle, you may end up overthrowing the government. But historically speaking, those kind of movements, they don't work out as you might intend. The groups that started or the reasons it was started, it may change, and then somebody gets in power. Just look at, for example, look at Cuba. Look at the Castro regime, okay? He promised to basically be a freedom fighter. He was going to fight for the people, and after he got power, he oppressed them even more. So this is important to note. If you want your government to actually back off and quit oppressing the people, then the way that you do it is through nonviolent struggle. And let me actually, I got a quote here from this book. I want to read just because I think that it's very awesome. This is a good quote. All right, it says, "The degree of liberty or tyranny in any government is, therefore, in large part a reflection of the relative determination of the population to be free, and their willingness and ability to resist efforts to enslave them. For the tyrant has the power to inflict only that which we lack the strength to resist." Seriously. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in this book. I highly recommend it. Again, that's Waging Nonviolent Struggle by Gene Sharp. I'm in the process of reading it now. Okay, so let's move on to Dr. Martin Luther King. What did he have to say in rebuttal?
Malcolm X, one of the most articulate exponents of the black Muslim philosophy, has said of your movement and your philosophy that it plays into the hands of the white oppressors, that they are happy to hear you talk about love for the oppressor because this disarms the Negro and fits into the stereotype of the Negro as a meek, turning the other cheek sort of creature. Would you care to comment on Mr. X's please?
Well, I don't think of love as, in this context, as emotional bosh. I don't think of it as a weak force. But I think of love as something strong and that organizes itself into powerful direct action. This is what I tried to teach in the struggle in the South, that we are not engaged in a struggle that means we sit down and do nothing. That there's a great deal of difference between non-resistance to evil and non-violent resistance. Non-resistance leaves you in a state of stagnant passivity and deadened complacency, wherein non-violent resistance means that you do resist in a very strong and determined manner. And I think some of the criticisms of nonviolence, or some of the critics, fail to realize that we are talking about something very strong, and they confuse non-resistance with non-violent resistance.
He goes beyond that in some of the things I've heard him say, to say that this is deliberately your philosophy of love of the oppressor, which he identifies completely with the nonviolent movement is, he says, is this philosophy and this movement are actually encouraged by whites because it makes them comfortable. It makes them believe that the Negroes are meek, supine creatures.
Well, I don't think that's true. If anyone has ever lived with a nonviolent movement in the South, from Montgomery on through the Freedom Rides and through the sit-in movement and the recent Birmingham movement, and see the reactions of many of the extremists and reactionaries in the white community, he wouldn't say that this movement makes, or this philosophy makes them comfortable. I think it arouses a sense of shame within them often, in many instances. I think it does something to touch the conscience and establish a sense of guilt. Now, so often people respond to guilt by engaging more in the guilt-evoking act in an attempt to drown the sense of guilt. But this approach certainly doesn't make the white man feel comfortable. I think it does the other thing. It disturbs this conscience, and it disturbs this sense of contentment that he's had.
So, he said a couple things here, and this is important to note. Being nonviolent does not mean being passive. All right, it does not mean that you're doing nothing. It means that if you are engaging in a nonviolent struggle, and that may sound like an oxymoron. How can you struggle nonviolently? And it's through nonviolent struggle that you do this. The way that you do it, you link arms. For example, and let's link this back here to Burns, Oregon. All right, the Bundy situation that's over there with Ammon Bundy and then Lavoy Finicum. Okay, one of the reasons why I was saying that, though I completely agree with these people, first of all, their cause and their right to do what they were doing, I am not under any circumstances coming after them or disagreeing with the purpose or the reasons why they're out there. I agree with them. I agree with them wholeheartedly. My issue is the fact that of the methodology in which they chose to protest. And I'm not criticizing them. I'm just saying I would have done it differently. And I'm not saying that they were wrong. I'm not saying that I'm right. I'm just saying that history has shown it that governments do not know how to respond to nonviolent struggle. All they know how to do is to respond with force. And when the government responds with force to nonviolent struggle, it's clear that it wins the hearts and minds of people. Now, I want you to go back to this Twitter conversation that I had earlier, okay? The person I was talking about, she actually agreed with me that redistribution of wealth is theft. I explained it because, look, she's not for bailouts. She's not for subsidies. Although she doesn't really understand the process in which the government is redistributing this wealth, she doesn't understand that these things I'm against too. But she's for minimum wage, which is a redistribution of wealth mechanism. See, she's actually against the things she's for, but she doesn't know it. And when she sees somebody getting the crap kicked out of them, they're being completely passively resistant. They're not hurting anyone. For example, I'm sure you've all seen the pictures of the police officers spraying the kids on campus with pepper spray as they're sitting down, linked arms, holding hands, and they spray them right in the face with the pepper spray. It goes down their throat. All of this stuff, people innately don't like that. So to say that nonviolent struggle is passive it's really incorrect. You are resisting, as Dr. Martin Luther King just said, you're resisting strong and determined. So I think it's important to note also that just because you're resisting nonviolently, as he said, it doesn't make people feel comfortable. Because again, I want you to imagine the Burns, Oregon situation. They didn't have guns at all. They were out there for a political reason. All right, I understand the purposes of having a gun to defend yourself and whatnot, but for a political reason, if you're standing up against tyranny, your best situation is to be unarmed. And I support your right to be armed. If you disagree with me and you choose to do that, I'm just letting you know that the media is going to spin that. And if something happens, if the police, if the government react in an aggressive and forceful manner, as you know they will, no one's going to come to your side. I mean, I'm going to say the same thing I did. Yeah, he had every right to do what he did, but it was the methodology that he chose, and it's going to be the same. It's going to be the same thing. Nothing in the end. Maybe a year from now, after a police investigation, or again, the government will check to make sure if the government did anything wrong. Can you really trust the government? I don't. I don't think you do if you're listening to this show. So I don't think any, and you know that the media isn't going to look into it. They're not going to give a crap. Oh, those maniacs with guns, because they demonize guns. I want you to imagine Burns, Oregon. They occupy it with 100 people, and they just link arms together. Anytime the police show up, they're completely unarmed. They don't even have so much as a knife, and they have cameras, all sorts of stuff that is, hidden cameras, cameras that are streaming immediately to the internet. They have, you got to document it. That will be the way to do it. Document the crap out of it. And invite the media to get the media out there. Go out there, sing hymns together. That's how you, first of all, you get people on your side. They see that you're out there singing hymns, and the police are beating the crap out of you with batons. That doesn't make any sense. You get that footage out. That's how you get people on your side. It's what happened with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It's why black people of the time actually did not reject him. And it's actually why white people, which he needed on his side, came to his side, because they didn't feel comfortable. As Malcolm X said, they felt uncomfortable. They felt guilty. They felt shameful. They felt all of these feelings that drove them to join the cause that they maybe would have completely ignored. You didn't see them running in droves to Malcolm X. You saw them standing shoulder to shoulder, linked arms with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. That's how the civil rights was won. That was it. And there's countless instances throughout history. Look it up. Jane Sharp's book, Waging Nonviolent Struggle. I'm not getting paid by this, by the way. I just am a fan of the book, but it's not an easy read. If you're expecting, a lot of levity, it's not that kind of book. It's very dry. I think it's actually a textbook. I found it in a Goodwill. But yeah, I would recommend it. But this is why I think that if we're going to put ourselves in a position against the government, and I'm not saying that we're hurting anyone. I'm not saying we're going to violently attack the government for oppressing us. I'm saying that if we're going to ideologically oppose the restrictive limitations that the government tries to put on our natural human rights, if we're going to stand against that, we have to stand nonviolently if we're going to win hearts and minds, because that is where the battle is being fought. You got to get the information in front of the people, and even the left, they disagree with the same things that we disagree with. The bailouts, the subsidies. We disagree with that. They see it as like, the corporate subsidies. Oh, no. Look, the problem is the government having the power. If you can get the message in front of these people, explain to them that it's not the people that are being demonized that are the problem. They're just the ones exploiting the system that is the problem. They're the Donald Trumps who are paying politicians to get them to do whatever the hell they want. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and cut to a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to get into our next featured topic. We're going to start talking about some foreign policy stuff for the second hour. We're going to talk about the Iraq and Libya and Syria and Iran. That's going to be our next conversation. We're going to talk about the petrodollar, why this matters. If you are on the 405media.com and you want to listen to the second hour of the program, check us out at our website, OnTheMoveShow.com, or you can follow us on Spreaker.com/OnTheMoveShow. And I certainly appreciate you all tuning in. And anyway, we're going to go ahead and come right back after this break, and I would appreciate if you guys would stick with me. All right.
Oath Keepers is a nonpartisan association of current active duty military, reserve, guard, veterans, peace officers, and firefighters who will fulfill the oath we swore, with the support of like-minded citizens who take an oath to stand with us, to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So help us God. Join us at oathkeepers.org.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/onthemoveshow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services, from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mack Worley III.
Hello, MacPack. We are in the second hour of the program. If you have made it this far into the program, I certainly appreciate you. If you're listening on Spreaker, if you're listening on our website, onthemoveshow.com, please smash that like button. Let me know, you like what I'm doing, you appreciate the program. I would appreciate you. And if you haven't done so already, please follow us. Follow us on Spreaker.com/OnTheMoveShow. It makes us look better analytically. More people can find us if we have more followers. In addition to that, you will get a notification every time our show goes live, so you will never miss a show. Also, FYI, our show is archived automatically on Spreaker, so even if you miss the live broadcast, you can check us out on the archive. Every episode's on there. I would really appreciate it. Anyway, so without further ado, let me go ahead and cut right into our next feature topic. And actually, before I do, I just want to give you guys a heads up. If you would like to join today's conversation, you can do so in a variety of ways. You can give us a call. The number of the show is 360-450-5625. Again, that number is 360-450-5625. You can message us on Facebook, facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow. You can get us on Twitter @OnTheMoveShow. Let me know what you guys have on your mind. All right, so first feature topic, Iraq, Libya, Syria, and Iran. It's all about the petrodollar. All right, so let's get into this here. I want to give a short history, a brief history of the petrodollar and the invasions associated with it. So, and then I'm going to make a prediction here. Now, we try to stay away from predicting things, but some things are just so evident that it seems like it's obvious. So I want to just throw this stuff out there. So first of all, in Iraq in 2000, we saw that Saddam Hussein, he took his oil sales off of the dollar. He put it onto euros. He started allowing people to buy oil in euros. And I'm going to get into the minutia of why this matters, why the petrodollar how it works, why it matters that we buy and sell stuff, globally, like oil in U.S. dollars, why that's beneficial to us in a moment. But just follow me on the history behind this. Just note that it's important, and the U.S. government really wants everybody to sell their oil in U.S. dollars. So, Iraq, they took it off of the U.S. dollar to sell their oil, and they put it on euros. And then in 2001, by the way, they did that in 2000. In 2001, suddenly we're invading Iraq. All right, okay. Then we actually supported the overthrow of the Libya. This is Obama. He supported the overthrow of the Libyan government, which completely destabilized the area. All right, the Middle Middle East, it started cascading. And as governments are falling, again, they're not trying to overthrow Iran, but they're trying to overthrow Libya. And the reason why is the Libyan dictator, I believe his name was Gaddafi, Muammar Gaddafi, if that's right. Let me Google that real quick here. Just want to make sure I'm remembering the name right here. Gaddafi. Yeah, Muammar Gaddafi, something like that. He was taking his oil sales off of the U.S. dollar. Oh, then we say, hey, yeah, we should support that overthrow. So yeah, then Libya goes. All right, we see a pattern here. Iraq tries to take it off the dollar, then Libya tries to take it off the dollar, and now Syria. All right, we're already in Syria. We've been in Syria. Let's be honest, through proxies, and we probably already have boots on the ground. They're probably just quote trainers or advisors, but the United States has been fighting over Syria. Why are we in Syria? Anybody know? Anybody know what's going on with Syria? Well, we want this pipeline that goes up in through Syria, through Saudi Arabia and Jordan. It's going to go up through there, go into Turkey, and then finally supply oil to Europe. And it will all be coming from Saudi. And guess what, gang? Saudi sells their oil in U.S. dollars. And Assad is saying, no, I'm not going to allow this to happen. I'm not going to do it. So it's my suspicion that you guys know the violence that erupted in Syria not too long ago, the so-called, because this is so-called a civil war. That's what they're calling it. And they're saying that Assad has committed violence against his own people. I believe that the U.S. government has been funding first of all, they did it in Benghazi. We know that they were arming al-Qaeda in Iraq in Benghazi. They were giving them guns. They tried to cover it up. They were giving them guns. All right, al-Qaeda in Iraq turned into ISIS, and I believe that it was either ISIS or U.S.-backed rebels that was trying to overthrow the Assad regime on the ground, and that's where the so-called civil war came into play. This is all about the petrodollar. The U.S. government and our economy is dependent. We have to, because if somebody else is selling, if a big player is selling outside the U.S. dollar, that means that the whole system is going to come crashing down. I'll explain that in a moment. But just know that we have to have that in there. Syria, they're allied with Russia. They don't want to sell their oil in U.S. dollars. They don't want to do that. So now we got ISIS in there, and the U.S. government was allowing ISIS to sell their oil, making them rich. They were selling it to Turkey. Turkey just so happens to be a NATO country. FYI, keep that in mind. So Sunni Turkey is working with Sunni ISIS, and Sunni Saudi Arabia is working, and they're arming, they're funding, they're doing all sorts of stuff with ISIS to try to overthrow the Alawite nation of Syria, which is Alawite is a sect of Shiaism. All right. And another player in the game here, Shia, is Iran. Iran and Syria are strategic allies. They're very close allies, and they both so happen to be Shia. So, now that we got that underway, I know I've talked about this a lot. I talk about it every episode practically now because it's so important. But I keep rehashing it. I try to get quicker at explaining this. For those of you who aren't, don't listen every episode, and maybe you aren't caught up to speed on what's going on. So now, we see that that's what's going on in Syria. We're fighting a proxy war, and there's a whole lot more at play there. That new information that I'm going to get to today. But it's important that we talk about what happened with Iran. Iran, they did the nuclear deal, and again, I think this had a lot to do with the Obama administration wanting to flood the market with oil. They relieved the sanctions on Iran. Iran's got millions and millions of gallons of oil, barrels and barrels of oil that they've unload into an already oversupplied market. This market is way oversupplied because Saudi Arabia just keeps pumping and pumping and pumping because they're trying to drive that price down. Now, one thing you have to understand, too, is Saudi Arabia, as far as the amount of oil that they can produce per dollar of expenditure to produce it, they have the lowest cost to produce in the world. All right? So everyone else, compared to Saudi, is a marginal producer. They have the lowest overhead. They have the best technology. They're allied with the United States. We've basically set it up. We got all the new stuff in Saudi Arabia, so they will be the ones that will collapse last. At least they think. That's their idea. Again, I've told you time after time, I think that this is it's a dangerous move by the Saudi Arabian government because ISIS, which they are funding and arming, is growing. Well, at least they were. Now they're shipping them all over. The United States government is now shipping them all over the world here. These U.S.-backed rebels. Again, one man's U.S.-backed rebel is another man's ISIS fighter. How do you tell the difference? They keep changing the sex of the names of the terrorist unit that they're a part of. So one of them al-Nusra. What? It doesn't matter what they're calling themselves today. And this, by the way, they're trying to get a peace treaty between these groups over Syria. They're just going to change their name and fight underneath a different name. Nothing will come of a peace treaty. You cannot negotiate with terrorists. All right? It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So, all right. Let's see here. I lost my train of thought. Okay, so we got the situation with Syria going on. And Iran, they just flooded the market with all this cheap oil because the sanctions are released. I think that's what the United States government was wanting with this, because they wanted to take it to Russia, really hurt Russian economy. Again, the Russian budget is based upon, $80 a barrel roughly. And just over the weekend, we saw $27 a barrel. $27. It just went back up to, I think, 34 last I checked. That was yesterday. But 20. I went to a gas station and saw it I think it was $1.36 a gallon. $1.36. What year am I living in? Craziness. So, anyway, the situation here with the Iran deal, and this is where my prediction is coming in. I think the United States, they weren't necessarily counting on it, but I think they really wanted Iran to sell their oil in U.S. dollars. I think they were hoping, they were crossing their fingers that they could get some goodwill. And before we actually get into the deal and some of the effects and outcomes of it, let's talk about the deal. All right, so immediately after we have the nuclear deal, Iran is in Syria helping their ally, the Syrian government, Assad. And you would think that, being that they just had a nuclear deal and we were waiting for these economic sanctions to come off, and we could have just pulled it off the table at any time, ripped it up. Okay, you would think they'd be on their best behavior, but no, they're not. They're in Syria. Okay, so it's basically they're thumbing their nose at us, like, look, your stuff is a joke. Then they do some rocket tests in violation of a UN agreement. So again, they're violating UN agreements. What will make us think that they're going to follow a nuclear agreement with us? It's ridiculous. I've already covered this before, but it's a ridiculous thought. This government of Iran, they want to kill us. They consider us infidels and want to kill us. So again, it's pretty nuts to even go into this agreement with them. But after all that, we got some U.S. sailors that have a boat that broke down. And what does Iran do? We have a spirit of friendship, right? We should be in a spirit of friendship with Iran. But no, that's not actually what happened. In fact, what happened is Iran captured our sailors. And at gunpoint, then they start interviewing them and essentially mocking them. So I have a clip here. This is from ABC News.
Images of American sailors.
abcnews.go.com. This is dated February 11, 2016. Now, this is talking about the capture of the U.S. sailors. So I'm going to go ahead and play the clip. Here we go.
Images of American sailors prominently displayed across television in Iran. 9 men, 1 woman held by the Iranians tonight. Critics say Iran has humiliated the sailors amid questions about why they were in Iranian waters in the first place. The 10 American sailors on display, their hands on their heads as the cameras roll. The sailors are asked if their vessels were in Iran's territorial waters. You will hear one sailor's answer, and tonight CENTCOM is now saying the Iranians staged the video and that sailor was trying to defuse a tense situation. ABC's chief foreign correspondent Terry Moran is in Bahrain.
Tuesday evening around 5 p.m. in the Persian Gulf, the capture. 2 American boats are surrounded and subdued as Iranian Navy cameras record the scene. And then, a few minutes later, the surrender. Images of the 10 U.S. sailors kneeling, hands on their heads, the Iranians in control. Through the night, Secretary of State Kerry makes 5 calls to the Iranians demanding the Americans be released, explaining it was a mistake. And those American sailors, 9 men and 1 woman, spend a night in captivity. Their passports are examined. A meal is served, and then a mild but pointed interrogation.
What matter that you penetrated in Iran territorial water?
It was a mistake. That was our fault, and we apologize for our mistake.
So there's a policy as a member of the military. You are not supposed to apologize to a country. As a prisoner of war, which is what they were, there's a code of conduct. And this guy, he's taken some flack. Again, who knows the situation? They may have. I see a camera pointed at this guy. There may have been an AK-47 pointed at his face and a cue card for him to read. Who knows what was going on? Now, you can argue that this guy shouldn't have done it, and he should have just been prepared to die for his country. Are you prepared to die so you don't humiliate the Obama administration? I gotta ask you, because I'm not. Because this Obama administration does a pretty good job at humiliating themselves and all of us in the process. Before we get to the humiliation, let's talk about, just for a second, the fact that the Iranians, they took video of this incident and they plastered it all over their TV, which is in violation of the Geneva Convention. But okay, it doesn't matter. So they violate the UN agreements. They violate the Geneva Convention, and we're expecting them to honor our nuclear trade deal. That's okay. I think that's kind of foolhardy. I think it's foolish, but I digress. So yeah, it's actually against the Geneva Convention to openly display footage to humiliate your prisoners of war. So pretty crazy. But again, if you're going to get on this soldier, this sailor, for saying, I'm sorry, it was our fault, and let's be honest, it was their fault. They did go into the territory, but it wasn't intentional. It was an accident. And if you're Iran, if you had this nuclear agreement and you saw the situation happening and you clearly see this is a little tiny vessel, it's not like a huge freaking warship, it's a little boat. And you're trying to basically, stay favorable with the United States. Would you do this? Would you take U.S. sailors? I would not. But again, I don't feel like this guy messed up. I think that he probably, again, he says he was de-escalating a very intense situation. He very likely, maybe he would have saved his life, the life of his men, if that was the guy in charge. I don't know. But I would not personally die to save the Obama administration face, especially when they're doing things like this.
I want to underscore how pleased I am that our sailors were safely returned into United States hands this morning. I also want to thank the Iranian authorities for their cooperation and quick response. These are always situations which, as everybody here knows, have an ability, if not properly guided, to get out of control. And I'm appreciative for the quick and appropriate response of the Iranian authorities. All indications suggest or tell us that our sailors were well taken care of, provided with blankets and food, and assisted with their return to the fleet earlier today.
This is unbelievable, all right? So he actually thanks the Iranians for how well they treated our sailors. He actually thanks them. I mean, that's crazy in and of itself. But then following that, Iran, marking their 37th anniversary of its Islamic Revolution, they continued to publicly mock the 10 U.S. sailors its military forces detained in Iranian waters last month. Groups of shackled Iranian men, again, this is that ABC news article here. Groups of shackled Iranian men and at least one woman, many of them overweight, were paraded through the streets of downtown Tehran as part of the celebration, dressed in fatigues meant to depict the U.S. sailors. The men had guns pointed at them while kneeling on the ground with their hands behind their heads. Others were tied together with bags over their heads. Crowds gathered to watch the mock reenactment of the heavily propagandized January 12th incident. 10 American sailors were detained for roughly 24 hours after their riverine command boats strayed into Iranian waters near Farsi Island. So I'm looking at pictures of this. It's got these guys wearing burlap sacks over their head. It's got them, tied around, and they're clearly in ABU style outfits, or ACU style maybe. I think that's ACU. Yeah, it looks digital. So it's intended to mock America, obviously. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And they're wearing the same brown shirts that the people were wearing in the video, the sailors were wearing. I'm posting this on our event link for you guys, this article. You can take a look at it, and I'll also share it to our group on Facebook as well. By the way, if you're not a member of our group, please go ahead and join our group. It's facebook.com/groups/OnTheMoveShow. So I'm posting this now. So now to Iran. What else have they done? All right, this is supposed to be, if you believe, John Kerry and President Obama, our relations with Iran have never been better, if you believe them. So what do they do next? Well, Iran just announced that they will not be selling their oil in U.S. dollars, everyone. What? So that may be a good thing for this government, if this apparatus, this administration that wants war, because that seems to be their MO, that seems to be their thing. They want war. So my prediction, gang, we weren't in Iran before. We will be soon. We will be soon. And not because they have weapons of mass destruction, not because they pose a threat to us, which I believe that they do. I believe ideologically they want to kill us. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm reading in between the lines. I'm just listening to the words that they say, that they want to destroy Big Satan and Little Satan. They want to annihilate us. Look, death to America, death to Israel. That's what they say. It's their words, not mine. Okay? I think they're extremely dangerous, but I know now the fact that they're selling their oil outside of U.S. dollars, I know that this government, this petrodollar, this system is unsustainable if they do that. So they're not going to allow it to happen. So I think two things could possibly happen with this. We end up in there because, they violated the nuclear agreement. That could be why they did it in the first place, just to say, they violated the agreement that we just did. So now we got to go get them. That's because it doesn't make any sense why we had this agreement or why we allowed the agreement to go through. So maybe the agreement was just to make it fresh in the people's minds that they're not going to get it. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's our justification, like the chemical weapons in Iraq. The weapons of mass destruction that we didn't find. It's not what it was about, in my opinion. There's not really. I mean, first of all, we know that Saddam did refuse the UN weapon inspectors, which he was required to let into the country because he used chemical weapons against the Kurds. So, look, I'm not saying that he didn't have chemical weapons, but I'm not saying that we cared about the chemical weapons. We cared about the petrodollar. That's why we were there. He took it off the U.S. dollar for selling his oil and put it onto euros. That was in 2000, 2001. We invaded, and then suddenly, at the detriment of their finances, all right, it actually hurt them. It impacted them negatively financially to take it off of the euro and put it back on the U.S. dollar. But they did it anyway. Because it's not about making a profit, it's about keeping the petrodollar stable. And again, I'm going to talk about why the petrodollar, how it functions in a little bit here. But now in Syria, we're being told that that Syria has chemical weapons. So here's how this situation may play out. Some predictions here, some alternate, realities, alternate ways of things, how they could play out, okay, if we end up in Iran, how we could end up in Iran. They violate the nuclear arms agreement. That's pretty likely because they're going to do it. I don't know how the heck we're going to catch them because they're the ones that are doing their own inspection, so I don't know how that's going to work out. But in addition, another avenue is obviously Syria, because Iran and Syria are strategic allies. So if we actually say, oh, well, ISIS, and by the way, our government is doing a new authorization of military force, they're basically going to be allowed to go anywhere ISIS is. Anywhere at all. So very fascinating the way this is working out. By the way, if you're talking about destroying ISIS, all right, in Syria, the only people that have been invited into Syria are the allies of the Syrian government. Russia, Iran, I think also Cuba was invited there, which I'm not sure if they were or not. I know they were there at one point, which is kind of another thing too. We just reestablished diplomatic relations with Cuba, and now they're fighting on the side of Assad. Again, I think we should get out of there. We don't have any business in there. Let Russia take care of it. Quit trying to topple governments. Quit trying to prop up the U.S. petrodollar. We got to get out of this system. It's unsustainable. It's going to come crashing down eventually. You can't just continue to perpetuate this thing. I digress. So, again, if we say that ISIS has chemical weapons, which is what we're saying now in Syria, that's another way that we get boots on the ground. I just don't know. Do you guys think that the American people are that dim? Are we that stupid to go into another war in the Middle East over chemical weapons? I mean, when we thought that the Assad regime used chemical weapons in Syria the first time, we weren't for it. We heard that excuse. We shut it down because, oh, no, we're not falling for that one again. Weapons of mass destruction, we don't care. We're not fighting in the Middle East because somebody used weapons of mass destruction against their own people, supposedly. Yeah, again, I think that it was the U.S.-backed rebels that used the chemical weapons, but that's just me. Now suddenly it's ISIS that has it. Oh, ISIS is the ones that had it. Well, ISIS and the U.S.-backed rebels are the same freaking people. They are the same people. And in my opinion, I think these people probably got this technology probably from the U.S. government. So I don't trust this. I don't trust this situation. We need out of there. We need to get off of foreign oil. We need to become independent off of foreign oil. It's going to be difficult now that we've been colluding. Our government is colluding with Saudi Arabia to crash American shale. Obviously, Russia as well. I don't know. Maybe the Obama administration actually hates fracking that much that they wanted to crash it and bankrupt people and put people out of work in America. Maybe. I mean, it doesn't matter. The unemployment rate doesn't matter for Obama because he just fudges the numbers. They just cook the books. They do whatever they want. So it's not like you're going to even know that most of the country is out of work right now. We got... Again, I did the figure at, I think it was like 90 million or so Americans that were out of the labor. They dropped out of the labor force. This is the most in 30 years or so that we've ever had that haven't participated in the labor force. This is the most, and we're supposed to have 5% unemployment when the real unemployment, we're talking about at the total population at 320 roughly million Americans. That includes people who are retired. That includes children. We're talking about a 29% roughly, around there, 29-30% unemployment, including the entire population. So it's a higher number if you exclude the people that have already worked all their life and retired, children who haven't ever had a job, people who choose not to work because of disability or whatever, taking those out, all right? It would be even higher than the 20 to 29 to 30% roughly. We're talking crazy amount of people out of the labor force now. Obama doesn't care. So, yeah, maybe he is actually trying to crash American shale. Maybe he wants to keep us dependent on foreign oil. I don't know. But what I do know is that another way that we go into Syria is this situation with Turkey. All right, so Turkey is demanding that if we do not create a no-fly zone in Syria that is going to give a safe space for these refugees, these Syrian refugees, they're going to unleash the hundreds of thousands of refugees that they have, probably over hundreds of thousands. I'll bring up the article after the break, but they're going to unleash these into Europe. So that's the third way we enter into Syria. Again, if we're in Syria, we're shortly in Iran afterwards. I promise you, boots on the ground in Syria will lead to boots on the ground in Iran. And it's all about the petrodollar. And when we come back from the break, I'm going to talk about the article here of Turkey threatening the European Union with these refugees. And I'm going to explain how the petrodollar works. Why does it matter that they buy stuff in the oil in U.S. dollars? Why does that even matter? And how will it hurt us if somebody decides not to do that? Anyway, we're going to cover that when we come back. You guys don't want to miss it.
I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, pledging my life, my fortune, and my sacred honor. So help me God. Join us at oathkeepers.org.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/OnTheMoveShow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services, from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mack Worley III.
So why does a petrodollar matter? Why does it matter that we force other countries to sell their oil in U.S. dollars? Well, the simple answer, the plain and simple answer here is because it spreads out our dollars. We are digitizing so much money. We're printing money. We got too much U.S. dollars in circulation right now. The fact that we're the world reserve currency, we're the currency that people choose to buy most commodities around the world in, is beneficial to us, because what it means is that other countries around the world will have business people that, for example, they know they're going to need to buy oil. All right, and when they need to buy that oil, they need to have U.S. dollars to do it. So first of all, how does that work? Well, they got to sell us goods. So they have to produce something, sell us goods, and then we get their product, which is great for us because we get products from them. They want to sell us stuff, and they compete to sell us stuff, so our prices get low because they're just selling us cheap crap because, hey, they need our dollars. And they got so many other people around the world competing to sell us their cheap crap. So, yay, we profit. That's how you do step 1, dollars. Step 2, spread them around the world. Step 3, profit. Cha-ching. That works for us. The only problem is it doesn't. And I'll explain why. So let's go back to the process before we get to that. So by having to sell us these cheap goods, then they get the U.S. dollars that we pay for them in, and then they can buy the oil. So it's kind of like a barter system where if I want to get a bar of soap, I got to sell this guy a thing of popcorn in order to get a rope, and then I got to sell that rope to get a chain link fence, and then I got to sell that chain link fence to you to get a bunch of soap. That's basically how it works. So it's that kind of thing. All right, but they can't. They have to have U.S. dollars on hand. So they have U.S. dollars in bank accounts on hand all the time, full of U.S. dollars, all right, in these bank accounts, and they use it to buy these commodities that are sold in the U.S. dollar. The petrodollar is one of those commodities, all right? So what that does is it keeps those U.S. dollars out of our economy, all right? So a lot of people don't really understand, and I've been trying to explain this to my friends. They're like, why is the economy not crashing? I don't understand. Why is it not? This system's unsustainable. How are we still operating? How is this system still afloat? It doesn't make any sense. Shouldn't we have inflation by now? And look, all the indexes that they use to show inflation, they're provided by the government, man. They're flubbing the numbers. They're cooking the books. The stuff that they count and they exclude, it doesn't. They're excluding things that do have inflation. I want to just ask you here, all right, gang? I believe that we are already in a severely inflationary period right now. Okay, so first things first. Are you noticing any difference in rent? By the way, has your rent gone up in, let's say, the past 30 years? Your mortgage gone up in the past 30 years? Oh, it has? Okay, all right. Yeah, they don't count that. They don't count that in the index for inflation. They count things like gas and groceries and things like that, which the price relatively, it has gone up, but it's not gone up as significantly. They also don't count cars. I was looking the other day, the average car price is $33,000. In the 70s, you could buy a home for $33,000, a nice home, a big home, a huge home. That's my Donald Trump. That's all I can do that's Bernie said, a huge home, you could buy a huge home. With that amount of money, these billionaires have huge homes with huge pavilions. Who needs 2 pavilions? Anyway, so the way that this system is set up is that we are seeing inflation now. We see it every day. Look at your medical costs, your healthcare costs. It's inflation. Look at your education costs, huge inflation. Has your tuition gone up? If you're out there in school, I know I see how much tuition costs and books for college. I told you guys the other day, a few episodes back. I paid $175, I think, for a book not too long ago. One college book. It's not a great book. It's just like it's paperback. It's not even that well made. $175. I just had to buy another one. It was $88. It's crazy how much these freaking books cost, because they know that people will get subsidized with these student loans and all this other stuff. They know that people will find a way to pay for it, because the government will steal money from person A to pay person B in order to pay for this thing. This is the way it works. So we are inflated. We already have an inflated economy. But why the U.S. petrodollar is so important, all right? If the world just decided overnight to just no longer accept the U.S. dollar as the reserve currency, if we had, for example, I do not think that there will be a switch over to the Chinese yuan or renminbi. I don't believe that's going to happen. They're having their own problems. As I said, if this whole thing collapses, we're also interconnected like we have never been before in history. The economies are so linked. You see something happen in China, it ripples here. When something happens here, it ripples all over the world. So when our system crashes, it all comes tumbling down. What I'm concerned about is a new world order style, big government, global government movement that comes over and says, "Oh, never again. We gotta have a global currency underneath a global government." These are the things that concern me, and these are the things that legitimately I believe would happen if the U.S. dollar collapses and the U.S. economy collapses. They all collapse. So Why is it so important that they stay overseas? Why is it so important that our U.S. dollars stay in overseas bank accounts and they don't come back here? Well, right now we have inflation. We do have inflation. If all of that money that has been outside of our economy and not within our economy, if it all comes flooding back in, which it will, we will go from being in an inflationary period to hyperinflation, where you have to pay $1 million for a loaf of bread. Things along those lines. We're talking about a crazy amount of money for items, for goods, for services. No one will be able to afford it. It's going to be the same thing that happened to the Weimar Republic. It's not going to be good, gang, and it's what happens, all right? So if, again, we use the pizza analogy, all right? Look at the currency, the U.S. dollar currencies, all right, as a pizza. You know, one whole pizza is the amount of currency that we have in circulation. So what is that pizza valued at? 1. All right, I cut it in half. Now the whole pizza is still 1, but now each piece is worth 1/2 of the total. So now, if we go from having just the one pizza as our currency to having 100 pizzas suddenly come flooding in, the pizza in its entirety is now worth a fraction of what it was. That's called hyperinflation in currencies. That's what will happen. So we are in real significant danger of this whole system coming collapsing down anyway, because of the loose financial policies that they have had here, the very relaxed financial policies, which are not relaxed at all. They're actively trying to prop this thing up, but they give bad loans out. Again, the government created the whole mortgage crisis back in 2008. This was all created by government. All right, government forced the banks to make the bad loans and then blamed the fat cat bankers for making the loans in the first place. All right, they blamed them, even though they prosecuted them for not wanting to make bad loans, and then they blamed them for the collapse. It was the laws that made the bankers do it in the first place. Yeah, the bankers shouldn't have done it. They were at fault too. But the government was to blame. This is why you can't turn to government to fix any problem ever. You turn to government to fix a problem. The only way that you can do that is if you say, government, get the hell out of our way. And that's how you fix a problem. If you don't say that and you say, government, please fix the problem, they're going to make it 1,000,000 times worse, and they're probably going to steal your liberty in the process. I mean, it's just a fact. Look throughout history. If you can't see it by now, you choose not to look. You have the Google, all right? I got the Google. You got the Google. Can you type? I know you can. I know you guys, and I'm not talking to you guys. I know you guys know this stuff, all right? But for the uninitiated, use the Google. It is your friend, all right? So we're going to end up, in my opinion, we're going to end up in Iran because of this whole situation where they're talking about not selling the U.S. dollar. We can't. Our government will not allow somebody to sell oil outside of the dollar because they are so dependent on this system. The whole system will collapse if that happens. But before we move on past the global issues here, the Syria issues, the war on terror, so to speak, I want to read this article here about Erdogan. He's talking. He was threatening to send these Syrian refugees here. So here's the article. This is news.yahoo.com. It's by Burka Akinseni and Stuart Williams in Istanbul. This is February 11th, 2016. All right, so Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, geez, man, I can't read this stuff, has threatened to send millions, I thought that we were talking hundreds of thousands, but millions of refugees in Turkey to EU member states as NATO pledged to deploy ships in the Aegean Sea to ease the migrant crisis. Erdogan stepped up his denunciations of Western policy on immigrants in a speech in Ankara confirming he had threatened EU leaders at the summit meeting in November that Turkey could say goodbye to the oh wow, that was a Freudian slip, to the refugees. Alarm is growing in EU capitals that thousands of migrants are still crossing the Aegean daily from Turkey after over 1 million made the perilous journey last year. Now, by the way, it should be noted that all of these open border states, Germany included, at first they're saying, "Oh yeah, open borders, woohoo! Party over here, party over there. Doesn't matter. You can party anywhere with these open borders." They were totally open borders. They were totally, pro immigration. And I'm pro immigration, but I'm pro selective immigration. And I've told you guys about that before. I think that we should be able to pick who comes into our country. It should be a guilty until proven innocent process. If you can't prove that you're not a threat to us, then we don't need you. Sorry. And if you're not going to prove somehow that you're going to benefit our society by, number one, creating a job, or number two, filling a job that we can't find Americans to fill, if you're just coming here to be a low-skilled laborer, no, we got enough of those. We got plenty of those already. No, sorry, we don't need you. Pass. That's the way I look at it. But I digress. Germany, hey, come on in. The water's warm, everybody. Hey, guy. This is how they roll. But now, Merkel, she's like, they're gonna have to go. This can't go on. She's realizing that her people are pissed, really pissed, because a lot of these people feel like their country has been invaded. Because it has. Their country has been invaded. Yeah, their country actually has been invaded, and these people feel like it's not their country anymore. It doesn't belong to them anymore. Overnight, it went from being a Germany to an Arab nation. Overnight, suddenly, Switzerland went from being, oh yeah, it's Switzerland. Yeah, I don't know the accents up there. That's what I think it is. But yeah, they went from being totally cool up there to now it's the rape capital of the world. In Cologne, there was hundreds of rapes, I think, in one night. There's groups of big, massive groups of Arab men running around groping and raping women. They have to go through these immigrant classes like, hey, look, just because you see some woman's skin, that doesn't mean that you should rape her. It's not an open invitation to touch her hiney, okay? All right? Look, we understand that you come from a different society and all that. Look, it has nothing to do with a different society, and it's just relative. They don't understand how your society works. It has a lot to do with stuff like this. In this video, I think this will actually blow your mind. It may actually blow your mind. You know what? Let's play before I get to the one that's going to blow your mind. Let's play the one that shows this whole thing about diversity that the left, they just don't understand. Everything's relative, There's no such thing as black and white. You may just not understand my culture, and let me explain it to you. They don't get the ideological differences of Islam. All right, and it's those who believe in the literal interpretation of the Hadith, the Quran, the Surah, the teachings from Muhammad. All right, you believe that to be the Word of God, the revealed Word of God. And you believe in Sharia law. Therefore, you believe that you can subjugate women and infidels. You can rape them. You can beat them. You can even murder them. You can enslave them. It's completely okay in your ideology. And that's their book. That's what it says. So this is somebody who doesn't know, admittedly, anything about it. Here we go.
I don't know very much honestly, about the Middle East.
This is Meryl Streep on diversity at the Berlin Film Festival. She's talking outright. She just says, I don't know very much about the Middle East. So I'm waiting with bated breath to hear what kind of wisdom you're going to drop on us here.
And yet I've played a lot of different people from a lot of different cultures. And the thing that I notice is that we're all, there is a core of humanity that travels right through every culture.
See, this is where it's clear that she doesn't know what she's talking about. This string of humanity that flows through every culture, it skipped over this one. All right, it really did. If you believe, I'm not judging all Arabs or Muslims. I'm not doing that. All I'm saying is that if you believe, if it is your belief that it's okay to rape a woman if she's not being humble enough, if she's not covering her body, if she's not dressed like a freaking beekeeper, that it's okay to rape her, beat her. You can honor kill her if she dates out someone outside of her religion, if she has sex before marriage, and in fact, if there's a product that is in it's selling like hotcakes in Arab nations. It is a thing that goes inside of a woman. It's like a fake hymen, I think is the word for that, where women are supposed to bleed the first time that they have sex. Okay? And they check this. The parents will actually check in this culture. They will check to see, after your first night of being with your husband, is there blood on the sheets? There's a product that women can stick inside themselves to artificially simulate that blood so they don't get killed. They don't get honor killed by their family. The slogan for the product is, if your product didn't exist, neither would I. That's the slogan. So I'm sorry, a string of humanity goes through every culture? No, I'm sorry. If your culture believes in Sharia law and your culture believes that it's okay to honor kill a woman because she had sex outside of wedlock, it's okay to enslave infidels, to murder them, to rape them. All of it. If you believe that's okay, you have no humanity and you are evil. And I'm just going to call it out. Look, I know that's not politically correct, but that's the truth. I'm not calling out all of Muslims. I'm calling out this specific belief. So, she went on to say, Meryl Streep, that we're all Africans. And it's interesting. First of all, I'm not an African. Just a FYI, I don't know about you guys, but I'm not African. She was referring to the belief that we all somehow originated in Africa as humanity. That's where the first humans were, and we migrated out and spread out around the world from there. But look, I just want to point out, Africa was not a country then. We didn't have like the maps with the first humans and whatnot. So just throwing it out there. No, I'm not an African, and I'm happy to say that. I'm an American, and I'm proud of who I am. I don't want to try to say, and that's another thing, by the way. I thought the left, don't they get really pissed off when you try to steal someone else's culture? Like they call it cultural appropriation. They get really angry about that. Where's the left? Come on, somebody go after Meryl Streep. She's trying to appropriate your culture, Africans. All right, I'm an American. I'm proud to be an American, and I'm also proud to be white. That doesn't make me racist. I'm proud to be white. I hope you're proud to be whatever it is that you are. Be proud of who you are. We don't gotta bash each other because we're again. I feel like it's weird. The white race is the only race that you almost cringe when you say I'm proud to be white. I don't do that. I am very proud of my heritage, and I'm not going to apologize for that. And I don't think you should either. I don't think anyone should have to apologize for their heritage. So let's play the clip that's going to shock you. All right? This is what normal Muslims think, and that is what the video is titled. All right? So this is a conference where I don't know who this guy is talking, but he's talking in front of a crowd. I would put this in the hundreds. All right? And he's asking some real basic questions. Here we go.
Can we have this camera focusing on all the audience? Because every now and then, every time we have a conference, every time we invite a speaker, they always can come with the same accusations. This speaker supports death penalty for homosexuals. This speaker supports death penalty for this crime or that. He is homophobic. They subjugate women, etc., etc., etc. It's the same old stuff coming all the time.
Okay, so he's saying, this is what they always say. They always accuse us of being homophobic and that we support the death penalty for homosexuals and that we support subjugating the population of women. This is all the old stuff that they keep saying.
And we always try to tell them, I always try to tell them that, look, it's not that speaker that we're inviting who has these extreme radical views, as you say. These are general views that every Muslim actually has. Every Muslim believes in these things. Just because they're not telling you about it, or just because they're not out there in the media, doesn't mean they don't believe in them. So I will ask you, everyone in the room.
Before we get to this, let me ask you, do you think that, what kind of percentage of people in this audience do you think is going to raise their hands when he starts asking them these questions? And do you think that he's actually right? Do you think that this is a general belief that every Muslim believes this? First of all, I don't believe that every Muslim believes this, but the ones that believe in Sharia law, if you won't speak out against Sharia law, I believe that you believe this. I believe that you believe in these values. If you believe in Sharia law, you won't condemn it, then I believe that you believe in these, because that's what Sharia law is. So he's about to ask the audience. Let's see what happens.
How many of you are normal Muslims? You're not extremists, you're not radical, just normal Sunni Muslims. Please raise your hands.
So everyone in the audience raises their hands that they are, with the exception of, looks like maybe 2-3 people here in the front row that I can see, but the vast majority of people in the audience raise their hands. I'm guessing these few people are either Shia Muslims, maybe not, maybe they're just interested. I see a white guy in the front row. He may not even be Muslim. Maybe they're Sunni. I don't know. Or maybe they're radicals. Maybe they're not just normal. Maybe these are the radicals in the group. All right. So these guys, arms crossed, not raising their hands. But most of these people have their hands up. They are normal, non-extremists.
Everybody, mashallah. Subhanallah. Okay, take down your hands again. How many of you agree that men and women should sit separate? Please raise your hands.
So everybody except for the white guy with his arms crossed is raising their hands now. Everybody. So maybe this white guy with his arms crossed, maybe he's just there observing. But everybody, I mean, there's tons of hands up in the air right now.
Everyone agree. Everyone agree. Brothers and sisters. Subhanallah. So it's not just these radical sheikhs then. Allahu Akbar. Next question. How many of you agree that the punishments described in the Quran and the Sunnah, whether it is death, whether it is stoning for adultery, whatever it is, if it is from Allah and His Messenger, that is the best punishment ever possible for humankind? And that
they are talking about Sharia law. That is what Sharia law is what Muhammad said was the revealed word of God, and that these are the punishments, these are what you should do for these things. That's Sharia law. So he's asking, do you believe in Sharia law?
Is what we should apply in the world. Who agrees with that? Allahu Akbar.
Everyone. Not one hand.
Are you
that I
all
can see
radical
here.
extremists?
Well, actually, no, I can't tell. The camera changed. The camera changed, so I don't know if the white guy put his hand up there. Maybe he was scratching his face, but when it flipped back to him, his hand was coming down. So everybody but the white guy that I can see here had their hand up. So now he's asking, are you guys extremists?
Subhanallah.
A few guys raised their hands. Yeah, they're extremists. They're laughing.
So all of you are saying that you are common Muslims, you all go to the different masajids, no way? Or are you like a specific sect, like the Islam sect or anything like that? Are you like that? No. Are you like that? Please raise your hand if you're like this extreme Islam sect or anything like that.
Nobody's raising their hand. No extreme sect that they're identifying with. Everybody's got their hands down. Everybody's smiling, laughing.
No one. Allahu Akbar. How many of you just go to these normal masajids in Norway, the normal Sunni mosques? Please raise your hands. Allahu Akbar.
Everyone.
So what's the politicians gonna say now? What's the media gonna say now? That we're all extremists? We're all radicals? We need to deport all of us from this country? Subhanallah. Allahu Akbar. Takbir!
So what is the media going to say? What is everyone going to say? Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to say. The problem is Sharia law. And if you can't identify that, then that's the problem as well. That's our problem if we can't identify that this ideology is evil, that it is the antithesis of peace, that it is the definition of force and subjugation, then that's the problem. And the problem is Sharia law. Anyway, we're going to cut to a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to be in the third hour of the program. Hope you guys stick with me, gang. We got a lot more ground to cover. You don't want to miss it.
Oath Keepers is a nonpartisan association of current active duty military, reserve, guard, veterans, peace officers, and firefighters who will fulfill the oath we swore, with the support of like-minded citizens who take an oath to stand with us, to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So help us God. Join us at oathkeepers.org.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/onthemoveshow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services, from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mack Worley III.
Oh, we are in the overdrive hour. This is the third hour of the program where we smash in some extra stuff, get everything that we can that we haven't had time in the second hour in here. Let's see what our featured topics are for this, because I forget. Oh yes, Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia massing troops in Turkey on the verge of invading Syria. Oh, that's not terrifying, right? That's not frightening. Oh gosh, here we go. In an article on thedailycaller.com, let's see. The article is written by Russ Reed, dated February 13, 2016, and it says, Saudi Arabia took its first step in preparing an invasion of Syria by moving ground forces and fighter aircraft to Turkey's Incirlik base. Turkish Foreign Minister, I'm not even going to try to say that name, announced the move on Saturday, just 2 days after Saudi Arabia said the decision to send its forces into Syria was final and irreversible. Saudi Arabia declared its determination against Daesh, which is the Arabic term for the Islamic State, by saying that they were ready to send both jets and troops. So, this is a coalition of a bunch of Sunnis. This is a Sunni coalition, bunch of different Sunni nations, all sending their troops in here. I don't see it having a list of what countries are participating in this. I don't see it. But yeah, I remember that. I mean, there was a big. Basically, if it's a Sunni country, they're in it. You are watching the Sunni Shia split go from the split to, prior to this, it was essentially a Cold War, proxy war kind of style. Now it is about to go to a hot war in Syria. What have I been telling you, gang? What have I been telling you? We are about to enter into World War III. I think we may even actually be in it right now. Our government, what they're trying to do, by the way, I don't know if you guys are aware, but there was a NATO simulation that NATO was trying to figure out what would happen in a World War III scenario against Russia. All right, what would happen? I think I covered this last week. Within 60-something hours, Russia would mop the crap out of NATO and America. We would lose in the Baltic states against Russia. They would beat us. So, very concerning that Russia would beat us to begin with. That's not good. And I think that the U.S. government knows that we're probably going to get our butts kicked. We're probably going to get our butts handed to us if we fight Russia, because the Obama administration has weakened our military. They have defunded our military. I found out not too long ago we ran out of missiles. I forget where it was. Somewhere it was. I think it was in Air Force planes or something. I can't remember. This was so long ago when I read the article. We ran out of missiles. So the Obama administration, they purged our military. They got all these Obama cronies in there. They've weakened us. They want to spread us out even further. What happened to the Romans? I just want to remind you. The Roman Empire, they spread out their frontier far too wide. Eventually, they didn't have enough Romans to defend their own territory, so they had to hire mercenaries, essentially, from the territories that they conquered to, basically, they had cronies in their conquered territories. Some people that said, okay, I'll work with the Romans, and they'll make sure that I'm very well off. I'll be made a governor, put in charge, get a lot of power, money, things along those lines. And then eventually, the Romans spread out way too far. They couldn't pay the people. They couldn't pay their forces, their mercenary forces, and these people didn't have any loyalty to Rome. They didn't consider themselves Romans. So what happened? They stopped protecting. They just left their post. And you heard the saying, barbarians at the gates. They just rushed in. And that's what happened to the Roman Empire. That's where it went. They spread out too far. We're doing that again in the graveyard for civilizations, a graveyard for empires, which is the Middle East. We need to stay out of there. If Russia wants to go get involved, Russia's doing a pretty good job. They're killing a lot of the U.S.-backed rebels. I mean ISIS over there. Yeah, right. They're actually only going after the U.S.-backed rebels pretty much. But still, Russia is making huge headway for Syria, and that's why Saudi Arabia is not going to allow it to happen. They got 150,000, a coalition, a Sunni coalition, 150,000 troops going to come in from Turkey into Syria and try to take Aleppo. They want to go after the Assad regime, and they're not going to allow Assad to stay in power. They want that pipeline. They want that U.S. petrodollar money. They're not going to let it happen. So, that's scary, right? That's scary. And again, Turkey's a key player here. Turkey, they're talking about letting those millions of refugees into Europe, and that's a big threat for Europe. But it's very interesting. Again, I kind of got sidetracked before we went to the break here, and I was talking about those two videos I played with Meryl Streep, and then the problem is Sharia law video, but. These open border countries, these open border nations, they've changed their tune. Merkel is saying that this is going to be temporary. These refugees, it will be temporary, whereas before she was not saying that. So it just goes to show you that these policies, they don't work. They do not work. And when you have open borders and a welfare state, as Milton Friedman said, it can't work. It just cannot work. Anywho, let's go ahead and get into another topic today. Let me go to the list. What do we got? What do we got for you guys? Okay, negative interest rate. Oh, geez, this is crazy. So I got an article here on negative interest rates. What is going on? This is Washington's Washington'sBlog.com. Washington's Blog. I don't know what this website is. Not sure how accurate this source is. Let me get a different one here. I thought that was a more credible source here. Negative interest rate. Sweden, Japan, Switzerland. Because I know that's what's going on. All right. Market Watch. Let's go with, New York Times. This is kind of older here. Anyway, let me just read the article I had here, and you guys can go off of that. But feel free to look up this information afterwards. I'm looking, and I see that some of these are actually... Man, I hate going off bad sources, and I don't know if this is an accurate source. But anyway, the source goes to tell us here. This is January 29, 2016, and I know this to be correct. Japan has joined the EU, Denmark, Switzerland, and Sweden in imposing negative interest rates. So, what the heck is an interest rate? Essentially, the banks are paying people to take loans. They're paying you to not you, central banks, to take loans amongst each other. They're trying to get people to take loans. They want more debt. They need to encourage more debt because the whole system is built around debt, and people are scared. They're scared to get in debt now. People are playing it safe. They see what's going on in the world, and they're not excited. The investors are freaked out. Who wants to invest? Who wants to spend? What are you going to do? Are you really going to invest your money? For example, just think about this. Are you going to invest your money into a home right now, into a house? Like just to park your money in there, it's secure. You're not going to live in the house. You just want to secure your wealth. I would say that's actually, if you're talking long term, yeah, that's probably a good idea. But if you're talking it's short-term investment, no, that's a terrible idea. Well, look what happened at the housing market crash in 2008. Terrible idea. People don't want to spend their money. So now people are saving their stuff and just trying to hang on to the U.S. dollars because the U.S. dollars appear strong. And by the way, why do the U.S. dollars appear strong? Well, because other countries have all these U.S. dollars. We talked about the petrodollar. So all these countries have to sell America products and buy our dollars, all right, through that exchange and hang on to it, which makes our dollar look strong. So if we're going to continue this system, we need to have our dollar strong, all right? And that's the only way the petrodollar makes the dollar look strong. And that's why people are still, stupidly, in my opinion, parking their wealth in U.S. dollars. It's a mistake. This is all going to come crashing down. And let's actually get into the why. The why, or how easily it could come crashing down. For example, we've already talked all the economic stuff of why America's economy could crash. We've talked about that numerous occasions. But let's just talk about and focus on one area, the reserve currency. Again, I mentioned hyperinflation. All right. So if we lost the petrodollar, or if countries across the world do something to weaken our dollar, like, for example, selling U.S. bonds. China, for example, they happen to be a very large holder of U.S. bonds. I believe the largest holder of U.S. bonds. And if they start selling these, it would encourage other countries to sell these. They're holding them essentially because they know that if they sold them off right now, it would collapse our economy. In which case, basically, we've given China a control mechanism to collapse. It can collapse our economy anytime they want by selling our bonds. It would hurt them because they got money invested into that. But let's say they try to set up something else. They try to do a whole new system. This is what I've been talking about. They try to set up a brand new currency, completely new. They've been talking. There's been a lot of talks with countries like China and Russia and Venezuela and other countries that have kind of the axis of power regime. They've been talking about creating a brand new currency. So again, excluding America from this process. And if that happens and they back it with oil, that they only sell the oil in that currency, and they couple that with selling U.S. bonds to make the U.S. dollar look weak, and then all this, not only the money from the bonds, the currency. Remember when we talking about what happens when the currency comes flooding back into America? It kicks in hyperinflation. All this money that was outside of our currency is now pumped back into it, and we've got a lot more dollars circulating, which makes each one of our dollars worth less and less and less, and eventually it'll be worthless. It's hyperinflation. So if China sells U.S. bonds, we have that problem. And they can basically control it. So let me go to another feature topic here, and why I believe that Donald Trump will destroy the economy. I've heard, and a lot of people I got a lot of respect for. They think that Donald Trump, he's a good businessman. He's going to help the economy. He's going to be tough. He's going to be a strong man. He's going to make some deals. He's going to be excellent. He's going to be huge. It's called We Got a Country. All of these reasons. I got a lot of friends that I respect that like Donald Trump, and I'm enamored by the fact that they do. I'm surprised, but let me just talk about specifically why I believe that Donald Trump will destroy the economy. Just with his trade war situation. And you may not understand what I'm talking about. You may not be familiar with this, but Donald Trump wants to basically put this is his policy. Now, again, I don't talk about the stuff that, like, I don't like his personality or something like that. I'm talking about policies. And I'm a libertarian in philosophy, and I believe in free markets. So when somebody tells me that they want to start tariffing, laying tariffs on the Chinese in order to get back at them for devaluing their currency. Look, by the way, China has devalued their currency because what they want to do is to sell goods to the United States cheaply. All right, it's a stupid policy. It's a dumb economic policy to do. And China, they're shooting themselves in the foot. Let them shoot themselves in the foot. We don't need to put tariffs. And if you're not familiar with what a tariff is, it's basically, let's say we put a 30% tariff on China. All right, what it's meant to do is discourage U.S. Consumers from buying Chinese products. So we tax it by 30%. So what does that do? What's the very first thing that would do? By increasing the price of that good by 30%, what would that do? It would raise the prices of those goods. So Donald Trump, first of all, is advocating raising prices for goods. That's what he's talking about. Places like Walmart, by the way, that is completely dependent on these goods, would go out of business. That's a lot of jobs. We're already talking about massive layoffs that are going on. Walmart already closed 154 stores nationwide, I think, if I'm remembering correct, 269 internationally. If I'm remembering that number correct, I'll be blown away. But I haven't looked at that in like 2 weeks. But they're already closing stores. Do you think that that's going to affect Walmart? Do you think that's going to cascade against Walmart and other big box distributors that buy a lot of Chinese products? Do you think that those companies may have more layoffs and store closures? Yeah, they will. How many Americans will be unemployed because of these tariffs? So, and in addition to that, the goods that we buy will be more expensive. And because they're more expensive, people won't go to Walmart, because that's why you go to Walmart. It's cheap. You're buying cheap Chinese manufactured product. It's cheap. It's junk. Yeah, people will buy American, but they'll also have to pay the price it costs to buy American, because we don't manufacture anything anymore. We don't even have the infrastructure set up for this crap. You start a trade war with China, you destroyed the economy instantly. Just for the sheer ripple effect of what I just described, you've just destroyed the American economy. We're talking millions and millions of people unemployed, massive hyperinflation. That would be crazy in and of itself. But you piss off China. I want you to think about this. China, they have the key to crash our economy at any time. You piss off China, first of all, you piss off China and you put the tariffs on them, they'll put tariffs back. So they'll start taxing your goods. So our exports, you have essentially done nothing. You've created a trade war where you're no better off than you were before. In fact, you are hurting yourself. What China's already doing by devaluing their own currency is hurting themselves. They've already had 2 corrections already. They're hurting themselves. Big government is never the answer. Free market is the answer. But it blows me away that people think that Donald Trump will save this economy, will turn this around, will create an era of small government. No. That is the biggest, one of the biggest things as a government you can do is limit trade. we're talking free market. I talk about free market all the time. Free market, free market. You're limiting trade. And it's not like you're helping anyone by these taxes. You know, all you're doing is funding the government more. They're stealing more of your wealth. The government is getting between you and goods. It's good for us that China has cheap goods. As a consumer, yeah, you know, it hurts our manufacturers. But you know what? We would be able to compete with Chinese goods if we didn't have all these freaking regulations on us already. We got the government on our backs, holding us down and making it impossible for us to compete, to manufacture goods. Yeah, I believe in specialization of the labor force. You know, we're gonna do what we do best, and they're gonna do what they do best. But the fact is that we can't do anything best now. Not because we lack the people, not because we don't have a caliber of people here. We have Americans here, and Americans are awesome. We are smart. We're problem solvers. We're innovators. That's what we do. But we haven't been able to, in decades, to do anything without the government on our back. So it's like swimming with a boat anchor around your neck. You know, all of us would be freaking athletes, swimming across, you know, in record time, setting world records. You know, if we just didn't have a giant boat anchor hanging around our neck and drowning us. We could be anyway. Maybe not all of us, and probably not. But you know, the people who were willing to work hard, the people who had a little bit of luck, they can differentiate themselves. Merit-based. You know, there's no such thing as a completely free or fair society. You know, there's absolutely no such thing as a society that is completely fair. When you think about it, you know, there's always going to be winners and losers. And the only way to make it fair, the only way to ensure fairness is to ensure that we not all start at the same place or end up at the same place, is to make sure that no one gets special treatment. You know, I don't care if you were raised with a silver spoon or you weren't. Being a free person gives you the opportunity, gives you the chance to make success for yourself. I want everyone to have that chance. I want everyone to be able to climb the ladder of success. What the left wants to do is kick that ladder out and say the best you'll ever make it is middle class. And if you try to make it above that, we're just going to steal all of your wealth past a certain point and give it to the lower class. And they're the ones creating these class systems. The entire idea of a class system is Marxist. The idea of trying to make sure that everybody ends in the same place, it's inherently unfair. Again, redistribution of wealth is theft. What right does your neighbor have to your property? None. None at all. They have no right. They have no... In fact, natural right would dictate that you have absolute right over your property, and no one... And you have a right to defend it, by the way. So, you know, if we do get China angry, if we get China angry at us, not only will they tariff us, but they can crash our economy at any point by selling U.S. bonds, because it will destroy the dollar, and that will be it. That'll be it for the reserve currency. If the dollar becomes weak, people won't be using it as a reserve currency. The only reason why people believe that it's strong is because everybody else is so crappy. China's devaluing their own currency. People devalue their currency when they sell their product to us, and they hold U.S. dollars. They don't trade in their own currency. It makes them look weaker because it makes the U.S. dollar look so much stronger because it's all around the world. It's being distributed. But if China sold the bonds, they crash our dollar, make it look weak. People stop using it as a reserve currency for everything. The petrodollar crashes. That's it, gang. That's it. That's all. Donald Trump advocates tariffs. He's inherently anti-free trade, inherently anti-free market, inherently big government. That's the big government solution. Very, very concerning. So let's talk a little bit more about Mr. Trump. Okay, I've had a lot of people. I've been talking with a lot of people, good people, like I said, people I have a lot of respect for. They've been saying a lot of things about Donald that I disagree with. Like, for example, think that he will bring the government size down. They think that he's actually a small government conservative, or he's going to fix the Constitution. All right. First of all, the Constitution really doesn't need to be fixed. The Constitution needs to be restored. It needs to be enforced. It needs to be protected. It needs to actually protect us. The Bill of Rights, again, I say this all the time, the Bill of Rights does not give us any special rights or anything along those lines. All it does is enumerate these rights and says that these, before everything else, hey, government, before you can do anything, these other things, these 10 things here, you can't. And really, there's a lot more than 10, and they combine a whole bunch into these 10 amendments. But these 10 amendments tell you the things that you can't do. Do you think Donald Trump's the guy for that? Do you think that Donald Trump will restore the Constitution, restore us to a more constitutional republic? I don't. Because I've seen and I know that Donald Trump uses the government to his favor. His answers to problems are not the small government answer. It's not, oh, well, let's see here. For this issue, for China, for example, to fix that problem, instead of putting tariffs, you get rid of regulations on companies. You stop taxing so damn much. You stop redistributing wealth. You allow people. You get the EPA out of the way. You make a fair tax. Oh my goodness, an actual flat tax or fair tax. Just how can anyone argue? I don't understand this argument that it's not fair to tax a billionaire at a 10% rate and somebody in the lower income echelon at a 10% rate. How is that not fair? That is inherently fair. It's not the same. You're not taxing them the same amount of dollars. You're taxing them the same rate. 10% of $1 billion is a whole lot more than 10% of 30,000. All right? Whole lot more. It's inherently fair. Donald Trump supports not only a progressive income tax, he supports a progressive income tax. So he supports big rich people being taxed more than the poor people, all right? Or the middle class, or whoever. He supports progressive income tax, which is stepping it up for the rich, taxing the rich and excluding the poor. That's what he supports. He also supports, though, a wealth tax. He mentioned it in the past. He supports a one-time wealth tax. He says it wouldn't work now. That's what he says. It wouldn't work now, but if it did, he would still support it. See, he never actually said that he didn't support a wealth tax. He actually said, when he was asked, would you still support it? He said, now it won't work. We waited too long. Now we can't, because he wanted to just go into people's bank accounts, not income. We're not talking about income. We're talking about wealth. So the stuff that you've already made, the stuff you've already been taxed, they want to double dip again and take more of your wealth. They wanted to do a one-time wealth tax. He supported. Still does if it would have worked. That's Donald Trump. It's not the fact, because again, you got to remember, the government has made more money in taxes in 2014, the 2014 tax revenue that they pulled in, more money than they have ever made in history. But yet the cupboards are bare. They don't got enough money. We just got not enough money. Oh my goodness! It's not a spending problem. It's an income problem to them. Oh no! We just need more of your wealth, American people. Here, I'm going to hang you upside down and shake you from your ankles until more money falls out of your pockets, and we'll just collect it up and we'll spend it wisely because we're the government. We protect you. You don't think about things. Just enjoy your grande latte enema and don't think. Do not think. But no, that's what the big government, that's what Donald Trump believes. That, just take more money away from people. That's the solution to paying off our debt. It's not a spending problem. Unbelievable. We are spending ourselves into oblivion. It is a spending problem. Let me ask you, gang, if you're making more money than you've ever made in your entire life, all right? If suddenly you are making 10 times what you ever made in your entire life, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you realize that, I'm going into massive debt. My ledger's in the red. I can't stop going into debt. What's going on? Do you have a income problem, or do you have a spending problem? I would argue you have a spending problem. And the reason why is not the only reason why. Fraud, waste, abuse, that's a huge part of it. Stupid programs that the government has, like funding clown colleges. That's a real thing that they have funded. Clown colleges. Your money has been used to fund someone to go to clown college. How's that helping our economy? Again, even the arguments that the left says, a general welfare clause, it can be used as long as, because if you're paying for somebody to go to school or to get a job or get some kind of training, that generally benefits everyone because the economy will be better, which, that's awesome. That doesn't even make sense. How is being a clown going to help the economy? It doesn't. Again, the general welfare clause means that everything that the government does should help everyone, not just one specific individual. All right? It should not be specifically helping certain groups. It shouldn't make victims out of some people and winners out of others. The government should not be picking winners and losers. That's a misuse of the general welfare clause. So we're going to cut to a commercial break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about Donald Trump and why this may seem like a Donald Trump bash, but I just want you guys to understand why I don't like Donald Trump, because every single one of his solutions is big government, and we're going to cover some more of this. I've got some more articles I want to get to. So anyway, we'll be right back after this break, gang. Don't go anywhere.
I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, pledging my life, my fortune, and my sacred honor. So help me God. Join us at oathkeepers.org.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/OnTheMoveShow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services, from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mack Worley III.
Okie dokie. So, not only does Donald Trump, he believe in these big government solutions, like eminent domain. Again, not just, and he likes to compare this to, we'd never get anything done. We wouldn't be able to build hospitals or roads or schools or anything like that if it wasn't for eminent domain, which he loves. But he supports the City of New London versus Kelo. All right? That's the Kelo decision, the Supreme Court, and he supports this decision. And what it was is Pfizer, the Viagra company, was going to use the coercive force of this government of the City of New London to use eminent domain to steal someone's private property in order to build this factory because the city needed more money. The city, again, did not think that they were spending too much money. They thought that they weren't making enough money. So in order to make more money, they wanted to get Pfizer in here, but in order to do that, they had to steal someone's property. Now, the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution requires them to pay to compensate you, to actually give you money for that. But it says, trying to remember the exact wording here. I'll come back to it in a second here. But anyway, it's you have to pay them due compensation, essentially, is what it is. So, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, if you're going to take someone's land, the only just way to do it is to come to some kind of agreement. And if you can't come to an agreement, you should not be allowed to take the land. Now, you can keep offering them different things. The government can offer them other land plots, more money. I mean, all of this stuff. I think that the only way that you can justifiably take someone's property is not by force, but by agreement. To do otherwise is theft, straight up. And these guys, we're not talking about for a hospital. I disagree with eminent domain, period. But I absolutely disagree with it. I think this is diabolical, despicable, evil to take someone's property for the personal gain of an individual or a corporation. Donald Trump supported the Kelo decision. He's used crap like this his entire life. If you believe that Donald Trump is an excellent businessman, I would argue he is not. Number one, his entire career, he has used the coercive force. He's greased palms. He's used government to get his way. So it's not hard to be a winner in an economy when you are being picked by the government as the winner. It's not hard when you have the government backing you up the whole time. It doesn't make you a crafty businessman. It makes you a crony. It makes you part of our problem in this system. He's abusing the power structure that exists that he's talking about. He's saying, oh yeah, it's these fat cats that are all part of the problem. He talks about money and politics and how Ted Cruz is owned by the banks. Who the hell are you to talk about anybody? You're the one paying off politicians. You're bribing people. You've admitted to it. On stage of a debate, he admitted to it. It's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable to me that this is happening, and people continue to call him a conservative. He's a big government progressive, a New York progressive. And look, I mean, you're entitled to your opinion. You can believe what you want, but there are certain facts here that are at play. So, and just because we disagree doesn't mean we can't be friends, I'll debate you till I'm blue in the face, and I usually do. But Donald Trump tried and failed to steal an old woman's home in order to build limousine parking lot using eminent domain. And again, personal gain. He tried to use government force for personal gain. This is consistent throughout his entire career. This is what he's done. But yet, him having all of the success he has, not justified because he's got it on the backs of other people using the force of government, he still somehow managed to go bankrupt. Oh, he will say he didn't go bankrupt, but his investors, he basically screwed over a lot of people. He's like, oh, don't feel sorry for these guys. They're freaking sharks. They're bankers. Yeah, they're bankers. They're probably not Mother Teresa. Still, he went bankrupt 3 times. 3. He's got cronies in government. He's getting special favors, getting picked as the winner, and he still goes bankrupt. Huh. I would argue not a very good businessman. Not a very good business. And the fact, the whole idea, it blows me away that there are evangelicals that are coming out talking about, endorsing Donald Trump. That's ridiculous. This man is not religious at all. He's already said, I'm not a religious man, so I can spot my own kind, all right? I know this guy's not religious. He's asked, are you, have you ever asked for forgiveness? And he's like, oh, I just try not to make any mistakes because I'm freaking perfect. I'm Donald Trump. Boom. Give me some fist bump. Fist bump Donald Trump. Yeah. So this is it's ridiculous. Not religious, big government guy, likes to cozy up with the government, give out bribes to government, and he still fails as a businessman. Crazy. So let's talk about some other things that people have mentioned here. They said, "Oh, I like Donald Trump because he's anti-establishment. I like him. He's anti-establishment. Oh, I want him to stick it to the establishment." Well, here, let's see. We've got an article, usnews.com. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump says there's nothing wrong with a little deal making to get things done. That's the article's title. It's written by, I hate it when they do not have who wrote it. Let me see down the bottom. Nope. Nowhere. Written by the Associated Press, I guess, January 22nd, 2016. So Donald Trump says, about the establishment, I think they're warming up. I want to be honest. I receive so many phone calls from people that you would call establishment, from people, generally speaking, conservatives, Republicans, that want to come on our team. Trump trolled reporters in Las Vegas before an appearance at Outdoor Sportsman's Awards. We are getting calls from everybody that it's actually amazing. I'm actually surprised, he added. He declined to provide names. So the establishment is cozying up to him. And Donald Trump has already said he would make deals with the establishment, because you got to make deals in order to get things done. I'm tired of being told that, by the way. This is the Mitch McConnells and this is the establishment. These are the John Boehners of the world, of the establishment, telling us that we got to get things done. This is our new speaker, Paul Ryan. Oh, we got to make deals. We got to get things done. No. We don't got to make deals. We got to stand firm on our principle. We got to stop being lukewarm and put up some bold colors, because otherwise people aren't going to flock to us. And this is exactly why in the polls, FYI, Donald Trump gets beat by Hillary. She's getting beat by an avowed socialist. By the way, prediction here, Ted Cruz wins South Carolina by a landslide. I don't know what a landslide really would mean in this case, but at first place, he's going to definitely beat, my opinion, Donald Trump, going to win. It's going to be a big momentum change, and I think that we're going to see a big problem here for Hillary in South Carolina. I think that Bernie Sanders is going to surprise everyone and win this thing, or at least get really, really close. We've been told over and over that Bernie does not do well in minority demographics, that he does really well with white people, but no one is excited to vote for Hillary. No one's excited about Hillary. No one's #ready for Hillary. Everyone's like, I guess. If I have to, Bernie's going to surprise everybody. And this is scary, I think. This is my prediction. I could be wrong. It probably won't matter anyway, because Hillary's got a lock on the superdelegates, which is a huge scam, and Bernie supporters are pissed about it. You guys can look that up on your own. I'm not gonna dive too deep in the Democrat bullcrap, because I don't really care, and I'm sure you guys don't really care either. My opinion, though, I want Hillary to win that debate, or that fight in the Democrat Party. I want her, because she's less dangerous than Bernie Sanders. How do you compete with somebody wanting to give everybody free crap all the time? We actually have to explain to people, hey, there's no such thing as free, and we got to start explaining how the economics will actually work out in the long run, and how it actually ends. You end up paying for it overall, and you end up having less freedom associated with it. So, it takes our arguments take some intellectual thought for the people to actually hear and understand. So it's going to be hard to compete with, I got some free crap. Who wants your free crap? That's going to be difficult. So I digress. Donald Trump, he loses in the polls to Hillary. In a general election, he loses. Ted Cruz, by the way, wins by about 7 points. Destroys her in the general. Why are we voting for a guy who 70% of his own party, Donald Trump, 70% of his own party is against him? I will never vote for him. Many conservatives won't. My choice now is Ted Cruz. And if I cannot vote for Ted Cruz, I will vote third party. If I'm telling you right now, this will be the first year that I have an opportunity to vote my conscience, because I am so sick and tired of compromising. I will never do it again. if there's no candidate that is within my ideological views, there's no candidate that I am even close to. I voted for John McCain. I voted for Mitt Romney. I even voted for John Kerry. I will never do it again. I'll never do it again. I was against the war in Iraq, by the way. That's why I voted for Kerry. I was a young, dumb liberal, all right? I was stupid. I didn't know anything. So now I still don't know much, but I'm learning. But I do know that I'm never, ever, ever going to compromise again just because, we got to get this one thing done. I will, from this point on in my life, everybody I vote for, I'm going to be proud of it. I'm going to be proud to vote for who I voted for. And my guy right now, Ted Cruz, not only is he ideological close to me, pretty darn close. There's some tertiary issues, secondary and tertiary issues that I disagree with him on. But again, I think for the most part, he's going to go after the EPA. He said he's going to abolish the EPA and go after the IRS. He wants to shut down the IRS. Oh God, that's worth considering, man. Are you serious? This will be the first time in my life I will have that opportunity. And not only that, the guy's electable. More electable than Donald Trump. And it's interesting, too, here. The person I was speaking with, they were saying, the establishment, the Republican establishment, hates Donald Trump. Well, Donald Trump says his own words in that U.S. News article that they're cozying up to him. And then he says, and the Democrats are afraid of him. Okay, well, here's Harry Reid.
What did he say?
He said you're a good guy. You're one of the Democrats he could do business with.
Well, I remember the good old days when he did a fundraiser or two for me.
Any issues that you worked with?
What's that?
Have you worked with him on any particular issue?
Look, we've gotten along fine. That was before he was running for president. I'm with that bunch of people running, I'm kind of pulling for him.
So Harry Reid and the Democrats, they're pulling for him. And then the guy I was talking with, again, I respect the guy. I just disagree with him on this opinion. He says that the media has been slamming Donald Trump. That the media constantly attacks Donald Trump. Where? Megyn Kelly, is that she asked him a legitimate question about some of the things that he said towards women are nasty. There's a clip in the whatever his game show is that he does. I don't know. Trump Talk. I don't know. You're fired. I don't know. But that show where he's like, you're fired. So one guy's talking about how this interaction he had with this girl, and she got down on her knees and was begging him, and Donald Trump's like, oh, that must have been a pretty picture, her down on her knees. Oh yeah, this guy is misogynistic. I'm sorry. I'm not even a feminist or anything. Look, all I'm saying, he can be that way. But Megyn Kelly, she asked him a legitimate question about this, and he's like, "That's an unfair question. I'm gonna destroy your career." And he goes and he acts out and tries to actually, first of all, boycott the debate that she was in, and then use the troops. He wanted to make a fundraiser to basically get people on his side. I resent that. Being a veteran myself, I resent being used by Donald Trump. I really don't appreciate that, and I didn't appreciate it. But that's the worst case scenario. Every other news agency, they love Donald. They love to have him on the show because the ratings are good. They love to cover him, and they don't even need to bash Donald Trump. They just give him enough rope to hang himself, and he does it for him. The media is just sitting back there and just reporting like, oh, what do you think about this, Donald Trump? And he's like, oh, yibbity yap, blah 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 blah, build a wall, blah 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 blah. And this is what you get. You get controversy after controversy. They don't have to do anything. The media is hanging back because they know Donald Trump will lose in the general. He stands no chance in the general, and I'm telling you, his own party won't vote for him. And he's a progressive, so I guess that makes sense because Republicans won't vote for him. Again, 30% of the party really, really, really supports Donald Trump and will support him. His own words, even if he shot someone on Fifth Avenue, he wouldn't lose a single vote. But the other 70% won't vote for him at all. And the Democrats aren't going to vote for him. Why would you vote for a Republican who's a progressive when you can vote for a Democrat who's a progressive or a Democrat who is a socialist? Why would you do that? He loses in the polls in the general. So the media has actually been holding back. The media has not been attacking Donald Trump. They're waiting for him and hoping. They're baiting their breath, just hoping that Donald Trump wins the primary, because if he does, they're going to unleash hell on him. For example, I got an article here. This is on glennbeck.com. Article is titled Glenn Talks Trump, Cruz on CNN's News Day with Allison Camerado. This is by Lori, dated February 1st, 2016. Glenn Beck says, I think Donald Trump is a very dangerous man, Glenn said. If you see, NBC just purchased a documentary from BBC that they're going to air at some point in the future of a woman, one of the anchors of the BBC, that did a documentary and had a horrible experience with Donald Trump, a disturbing experience. So they're hanging on to this. They haven't even released this yet because it's going to be aired at a future date. So at some point, they're just hanging back. And again, they're not attacking him on the media. They're just airing him. They're inviting him on the show. That's all that's going on. Donald Trump is not being attacked. The media loves him right now. The Democrats love him. It's crazy. I mean, the idea, and the establishment is cozying up to him. You know. Plus, he's donated to Democrats, and he donated to Hillary Clinton, so he's going to be going up against the general against Hillary. Supposedly, this is his biggest competition. He donated to her campaign. You can't be that ideologically inconsistent. Or we go back to him being a crony capitalist and he's just greasing palms against special favors. Right. So Donald Trump, if he's doing this bad in the general polls against Hillary, which, by the way, Ted Cruz is beating her by 7 points. If Donald Trump is doing this bad now, what's it going to be like when it all turns, when the media turns it on? Donald Trump is going to get annihilated. And as a result, if we do elect Donald Trump in the primary, we're going to be in some trouble. The Republican Party is going to be over. We're going to enter into a one-party system. The Republican Party will shatter, will disintegrate, and in a worst-case scenario, it will fracture even further if Donald Trump actually makes it into office, which is never going to happen. He has absolutely no chance of doing that. But I'll tell you, Donald Trump will. The worst part about progressivism is that it started within the Republican Party, and it remains there today. Donald Trump is a progressive. He's not a conservative, and he has no chance of getting elected, especially when this media turns against him, and they will. They'll bring back all the controversies that they just reported on and didn't talk about. They didn't give their opinion. They didn't slam Trump. They just said, this is what Trump said today. They'll bring back all of the stuff that this loudmouth has said his entire life. And they will slander it all over. I guess it can't even be called slander because it's true. They'll put it all over the news. But who has been fire tested? Who's been through the ringer already? Ted Cruz. The establishment hates him. He's got a lifelong career of evidence showing you that he's been standing against the establishment the entire time. At the behest of the establishment, they hate him. He has been a thorn in their side ever since he got elected. By the way, no one thought he could ever get elected either. He surprised the hell out of them by getting elected as senator. They didn't think that. And then they told him, the establishment, sit down, shut up. You're a first-term senator. You need to sit down and shut up. You have no right to talk here. You just go with the flow. That's how things get done. You got to make deals. Sounds like Donald Trump. Ted Cruz wasn't going to do that, and he decided to stand for what he was elected by his constituency to do, which was to oppose Obamacare. And he did. Filibuster of Obamacare. Harry Reid's government shutdown. They would not fund the government piecemeal. Instead, it was all or nothing, and they were prepared to shut down the government because they didn't get their way. And as a result, what happened with Congress? Oh, we shut down the government. Oh, this is what the establishment would have you believe. You shut down the government, people are going to get pissed off, and you're going to lose seats in Congress. What happened? oh, we actually took over Congress now. Interesting. But the media, not only the establishment has been coming after him, and again, talking about the establishment, Ted Cruz also fought against George W. Bush, Republican, in the Supreme Court. But the media has been coming after Ted Cruz consistently and by omission too. Not just the overt stuff that you see, but the omissions. Like, for example, Ted Cruz. By the way, I told you last week, I said it is a huge victory for Cruz if he gets within the top 4. I'm talking huge victory for Ted Cruz if he gets in the top 4 of New Hampshire. It's a very, very progressive state. Moderates are supposed to do well. Big freaking surprise that Kasich comes in second, by the way. He had 100 town halls in New Hampshire. 100 town halls. So, of course, he's going to place. At least he hopes. That's why Christie dropped out, because Christie spent a lot of time there. He had to do well. Christie did not do well. That's why he suspended his campaign. And now Fiorena's out. Pretty soon Carson will be out, in my opinion. That'll probably be after Carolina. Carson, if you are a Carson voter, stop it. Quit. Stop that. I'm slapping your hand right now. Stop. Don't vote for Carson. I'm sorry. I like the guy. He's a nice guy. I don't like his Syria policy. Go to Ted Cruz. Now, you have to coalesce. Otherwise, it's gonna be Donald Trump. I'm sorry. Carson has no chance now. He's got no shot at this. Marco Rubio, it's clear Marco Rubio got hit hard. His loss in New Hampshire, and it was a major loss. What did he hit, like 5th place, I think? Yeah, it was Donald Trump, then Kasich, then it was Ted Cruz coming in third. I said a big victory if he comes in within the top 4. He made it in third. Then it was Bush, then it was Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio, you're going to see after South Carolina dropping down. My opinion, my prediction, Marco Rubio, his campaign's going to be over pretty soon. Donald Trump, he's going to lose. He's going to lose this. He'll probably come in second, I'm guessing. But Ted Cruz, number 1 in South Carolina, the momentum from this is going to carry him. He's going to do what he did with the Senate. He's going to surprise everybody. He's got 10 times bigger of a ground game in South Carolina than he had in Iowa. 10 times bigger. He's the one. Ted Cruz has the one with the organization right now. It's the best organization in the game. He's going to surprise everyone. And again, the media has been attacking him overtly and covertly. I mentioned the omissions. They talked about how Marco Rubio would be more palatable, essentially, and with his so-called Marco Mentum, the surge. Who would have not thought that Marco, a conservative? I mean, he's arguably conservative, not when it comes to the Constitution, because he thinks you can just ignore the Fourth Amendment, but he's a conservative. He should have done well in Iowa. So they made a big freak. They said it was a huge victory, his huge third-place victory in Iowa. Oh, huh? Okay, so why didn't that transfer over to New Hampshire? Ted Cruz's, his was a huge. He should not. They projected him to be in fifth place or further back. He made it in third. Where is the same huge third-place victory from Ted Cruz? Again, the Republican establishment and the Republican Fox News media establishment, the media in general, they want to ignore Ted Cruz. You got the cruise control on, gang. Cruise control, hashtag. It's going to happen. Mark my words. Come South Carolina, I think you guys are going to be surprised. Ted Cruz wins South Carolina. You're going to see Carson go away. You're going to see Donald Trump start sliding far in the polls, because it's going to be obvious now that Ted Cruz can win this. And people are going to start coalescing around it. The momentum will pick up. I think Donald Trump will be out. I think Donald Trump will probably be one of the last people out. Bush will probably be one of the last people out, obviously, because he's got a stupid bankroll. But he has no shot. He's got no shot at this. Marco, I think if Marco starts losing pretty hard, and the idea of Marco is basically the supposed to be the more electable Ted Cruz, essentially. He's the one that's more electable. He'll make a deal. He's not as controversial. But if Ted Cruz keeps beating him, whooping him in the polls, whooping him in the primary. He can't stick around. He just can't. There's not enough oxygen in the race for both of them. And that's my guess. Oh, Kasich will probably hang around for a few more primaries here. As things start to speed up, he'll drop out because his win in New Hampshire was only because he practically lived there. So let's see here. Ken on Twitter says, at On The Move Show, when at Senator Ted Cruz was running for senator, I tweeted him. He answered my question, and he hasn't lied. He's my guy. Way to go, Ken. All right, gang, we got to take off. We're running out of time. I would love to stick around with you more. Please check us out on our website, On The Move Show. Check us, or OnTheMoveShow.com. Check us out on Spreaker.com, Spreaker.com/OnTheMoveShow, Facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow, Twitter.com/OnTheMoveShow, YouTube.com/OnTheMoveShow. Big shout out to the Mac Pack. Thank you guys for tuning in week after week. And again, check us out every Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And as always, know your rights, assert your rights, get on the move.